The opinions on the show are the opinions of the host and guests on WSK alone. These opinions do not represent KZLX, Northwest Missouri State University, or Bearcat Athletics. Enjoy the show. And good afternoon here on the weekend Sports Kickoff. Devin Albertson with Kramer Sansone, Jacob Blair, and Ryan Elliott here.
Somebody get me Mariano Rivera.
Enter Sandman. As we're starting today's show off, the final week of regular classes here at Northwest Missouri State. An update from Joplin. The baseball team takes care of Missouri Southern 4-1. Southern challenged there in the ninth inning, and a couple guys on base, but Northwest gets out of a jam to get, what is their fourth straight win now in a row, Kramer?
That is their fourth in a row. They've been on a tear as of late after the Pitt State series last week, so yeah.
Yeah, so a nice series there for the baseball team as they take down Missouri Southern today. They beat them yesterday 4-3, today 4-1. They have a doubleheader. Next game will start in about an hour or so is what it's scheduled to start here, according to BearcatSports.com. So the baseball team, as you said, they're playing well, sitting right now third in the conference, right behind Central Oklahoma and Central Missouri. So they're playing really well, as after you said that Pitt State series.
Yeah, no, the Pitt State series, they look really bad because, I mean, Pitt State is obviously ahead of them in the MIAA record standings right now. But, yeah, if they can win out the rest of these season, like get the second game, the doubleheader going, they're going to be a very good team heading towards like their little tournament time. Because
you got Missouri Southern, of course, for the third game of the series today in about an hour. They have Missouri Western on Wednesday, followed by a weekend series with Southwest Baptist, and end the year on the road against Central Oklahoma, right now sitting number one in the conference. That's a big series coming up for the Bearcats.
If they can at least get one game out of the Central Oklahoma series, then that'll be impressive. But the way they're playing right now, it's possible they can win 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll kind of see where they're going to end up there at the end of the season. You know who got the win today in today's game for the Bearcats?
I'm looking at that right now. Not 100% sure.
Looks like Brad Roberts. 8 innings, only 1 earned run, led 3 hits, had 8 strikeouts, no walks. So a nice strong outing out of Roberts today. Yeah,
Roberts has also been looking good the past. Even though he did pitch the game, it was 5-1 against Pitt State. He also gave up 3 earned off of 5 total. Okay. So he's been pitching well for the Bearcats.
It looks like Dudar got the save again there for Northwest as he came in and closed it out in that game. Other news, the softball team was swept yesterday against Emporia State 9-1 and 6-5 over in Emporia. Today they're at Washburn right now playing at 1:30, and they'll have another game at 3:30. We don't see any live updates for that game yet, but as soon as we get them, we'll get them to you guys as well. Do you have anything, Ryan?
I just, a tough sweep against Emporia State. I think, Bearcat softball's had kind of an up and down last couple of weeks, had a tough loss against Missouri Southern a couple weeks ago that probably shouldn't have happened, but they've come back and played relatively well, and now a tough sweep against Emporia, and just kind of up and down. They've seen some really good pitching out of Rachel Smith. They've seen some really good hitting, but unfortunately haven't been able to hit the ball the last few games, so might just be a little bit of a slump for the Bearcat softball team. We'll look forward to seeing them coming back here as we head toward tournament time.
And it looks like top of the third inning, it's 3-0 Washburn, but Northwest has 2 girls on with 2 outs in the top of the third. So that's where they're at right now over in Washburn, and pitching is Blackford for the Bearcats right now.
Who's also got incredible stuff. So pair of good pitchers for Northwest softball at the moment.
As they're currently sitting 5th in the MIAA standings behind Washburn, Central Missouri, Central Oklahoma, and Missouri Western. So they're right in the thick of things at the top of the conference. They can maybe pick up a game or 2 if they can steal a game or 2 from Washburn. So it's a big series coming up here for the ladies. Other news in Bearcat Athletics, the women's tennis is in the MIAA Championship tournament today up in Lincoln, Nebraska, as well as the track team is at the KU Relays, and part of them will be at Azusa Pacific tomorrow. So that's kind of what's going on. Women's golf for the MIAA Championship is next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as that's where they have coming up there for women's golf. And I said earlier, next Wednesday, men's baseball versus Missouri Western here at Northwest Missouri State at 2 o'clock. So that's kind of what's going on here at Northwest Missouri State. don't think there's any other news with the football team. Their spring game a couple weeks ago. I'm still trying to get some more information coming out of that to see kind of where the quarterback battle is coming. Right now, kind of a slow time in Northwest Athletics with just baseball, softball, and then track going on elsewhere. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. 3-0 for the softball team, trailing Washburn, and the baseball team just won 4-1 over Missouri Southern. As it's 2:05 here on the weekend sports kickoff on 20th of April. If not, we're just going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about...
I'm not quite sure if these guys were known, but the basketball team, McCollum, did officially announce 3 signees for next season. I believe it was Diego Bernard, Xavier Rhodes, and Luke Waters will be added to the roster next season, all as freshmen. So not quite sure if the red shirt or not, but with the way the basketball roster is going to shape up next year, it wouldn't be a surprise to see not all of them red shirt, but still, McCollum announcing some new signees.
And they're going to, I think it was Drew Blair also announced earlier in the year that he's coming as well. So it's 3 guards and a post. And Luke Waters is like a 6'5", stretch 4 kind of player. So those 2 players coming in. Diego Bernard, of course, out of St. Joseph Lafayette, same school as Kramer over there.
Woo!
Representing
that.
I did know on Twitter the other day, it was announced that he jumped at 22 feet even in the long jump, setting a school record that stood for 20 years at Lafayette. And he's in line to place highly down at state in Class 4 right now, and this is only like his 4th ever track meet. So, heck of an athlete coming to Northwest next year for basketball, and of course Xavier Rhodes also coming to Northwest as he was a 3-year letterman at Rockhurst High School down in Kansas City. So, McCollum just kind of restacking the roster a little bit there, losing quite a few seniors off this year's roster. So we'll kind of see what they all bring to the table. As I believe the women's, I haven't seen anybody commit since Kendi Eaton from North Central Community College. She originally went to high school at Mound City, so just about 40 minutes here from Maryville. So they got one girl to commit here. They've also had a lot of visits on campus, so we'll see what the women can do with Coach Meyer at the helm now with recruiting. Now they've looked at some other transfers as well, some other high school girls, so they're going to bring some more talent onto the roster as well. So that's kind of what we have going on in Bearcat Athletics. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Division II football, and a rule change is going to happen starting this fall for only D2 football, and it's kind of interesting. Kind of see what everybody's thoughts on it next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And we are back on the Weekend Sports Kickoff as Devin Albertson with Kramer Sandstone, Jacob Blair, and Ryan Elliott. As it's time to talk about a rule change that's going to happen in college football that they decided to implement for this season. The Football Rules Committee made a proposal to continue efforts to increase the number of touchbacks during kickoffs since fewer injuries occur during kickoffs to result in touchbacks and kickoffs. So they're going to say any fair catch inside the 25-yard line will result in a touchback, and the ball will be placed at the 25-yard line to start the drive. Kind of a weird rule. What you guys' kind of thoughts on this new rule?
I think, you look at this and see, obviously it's going to be safer. And, obviously it's going to decrease injuries on kickoff returns because there will be less kickoff returns. But at this point, why not just take out the opening kickoff? Just take out kickoffs altogether. Start the drive on the 25. I mean, outside of the very, very rare onside kick situation, the kickoff is totally pointless now. Completely pointless.
Yeah, especially since 2012, they moved the kickoff up 5 yards and increased the touchback from the 20 to the 25. It really incentivizes more touchbacks. So
just start the drive on the 25.
I like kickoff returns, but at the same point, most of the time you get to the 25-yard line anyways, maybe. So it's kind of a mute
just start
point.
The drive there.
Don't
worry about it.
Okay, I like this rule change a little bit, and in order to have the safety, but then again, also who really cares about kickoffs now? Unless you can add on the fact that, say, if you're a kicker and you can kick it through the field goal from wherever the kick is placed at, and you get some points off that way. That's the only way you're going to make it even happen or anything.
2 points if you can make.
Yeah,
a field
exactly.
Goal
It's honestly, it's kind of impossible for Division II. I mean, I know there's some out there that can possibly do it, and when the wind's right,
Greg
but still.
Zerline could.
Yeah, Zerline, Greg the leg, but
yeah,
there's not very many. I think it's going to be all divisions of football actually. But it's kind of interesting with all this stuff. One thing it does take away is directional kicking on kickoffs. So you try to pin them, just kick it high and get the ball inside the 5-yard line and make them return it. That kind of takes away that strategy of trying to pin teams deep. But at the same point, I get what they're doing with the fewer injuries, and football is trying to save itself kind of from those injuries. And proportionally with kind of regular plays and kickoff and like these type of plays, there's a lot more injuries because they're running full speed and you're grown men hitting each other like that. Like that's injuries are going to happen that way. So I see why they're doing it, but I'm kind of with Ryan. It's like either just leave it alone or take it away completely. Because at this point, doing all these other little things is kind of like you're going that way anyway. Just either make the leap or don't. Just choose a path.
Well, and then I think you can do the same thing kind of that we've seen. I don't know what I was going with that, but I think you can have a team, declare whether or not, say, if they want to try to go for an onside kick, they can say, hey, we're going to go for an onside kick instead of giving them the ball at the 25-yard line.
Why not?
Then you'd see onside kicks every time. But
it's entertaining.
So I'm with you guys that I don't see the point of making this rule and just not getting rid of kickoffs altogether, because you're going to sit there and it's basically just a waste. You're wasting time because when you look at the Bearcats from last year, there were 60 total kickoffs, I think 19 total touchbacks. So to get obviously to get a touchback last year, you had to kick it to the end zone. Division II guys are not going to get it to the end zone. So a lot of times you would have kickoff returns in Division II, where now you're just going to have a guy fair catch it. There's then you're going to have teams maybe start doing weird stuff on kickoffs to try to
squib it.
Yeah, to just
technically, the clock doesn't run on the kickoff until you catch it. If it's fair catch, the clock won't run. So there's no wasting clock on this.
Well, when I meant wasting time, I mean just like everyone in the stands. And
okay.
The 5-hour football game on every Saturday.
Yeah.
That's another thing. College football games last forever. There's certain games, if there's a lot of points in the game, it drags on and on because there's so many kickoffs and stuff like that. There was a game, I think a couple years ago, it was Northwest versus Northeastern State. Neither team could really get a stop, so it was like Northwest scored like 70-some points. That game took forever to call. It's like it's a blowout. No one really wants to be here anymore because this team is not as good as Northwest. Can we just go home at this point? But
now I think the thing that makes it interesting, at least a little bit though, is that from a returner standpoint, then if you're tracking the ball and you realize you're going to make the catch at about the 20-yard line, you can make the decision not to fair catch it and try to get that extra 5-10 yards. It does present that, especially in Division II, but I think in Division I, this is totally pointless. Like, this makes kickoffs totally pointless.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
in Division II, not so much, because there are going to be a lot of guys that are going to kick it to the 15-yard line, and you might as well return it from there.
Unless they have a massive wind to their back.
Right.
And it's like, oh, look at that, got to the goal line.
And so, but in Division I, kickers are all good enough that it really doesn't matter.
They could actually try to pin them like where the ball lands at the 25, and they have to make the decision: do I need to run, or
that would be some really precise kicking,
or like in that area too. Say they're at the 26, but the person catching the ball thinks they're at the 25 or the 24, and they call fair catch, but they can't.
You can call fair catch, just dead there.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
So they would actually gain that extra yard.
That's true.
That would be beneficial.
You might see more squib kicks because you can't fair catch those. So
I just think it's going to create some really weird stuff teams are going to try to do to try to mess with other teams, and you're going to see teams call fair catch all game and then randomly decide to return. It's just going to create some really weird situations, I think.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think if it does create some weird situations, then it has the potential to create some exciting plays. But I just think, especially in Division I, in Division II, this is a really good rule, just because it creates a different decision and it helps players' safety at least a little bit. In Division I, it's good because it helps players' safety, but it just totally takes the point out of kickoffs.
And you don't have to fair catch it. You can still run it out from anywhere you want to. It's just your funeral.
And kickoffs are already almost pointless anyway.
And this will help
more.
This will also help Sean Bain Jr. stay healthy through the
fair.
season as well. That's one reason, good positive on this. So, yeah.
And he already fair caught a lot of punts last year in the first place, and now you can just like, oh, you know what, we're just going to fair catch this.
We'll see if he's even returning kicks. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's true. I always want to say that because he was doing that during the green and white game.
Yeah, spring games. So that's kind of what's going on there with that rule change. The other rule change that was kind of weird, I just kind of remember I saw that one. That was kind of the big one. I really haven't seen anything else. Harbaugh hadn't made anybody mad in NCAA since his satellite camps, has he, Kramer?
Wait, what's that again?
Harbaugh hadn't made anybody mad since the satellite camp stuff, has he? That's pretty much the last thing he did to tick off people.
Yeah, so far I haven't heard anything much about that, but yeah, there's some stuff in the woodwork.
He's always like to get somebody.
He's very opinionated, and the people he don't like, and we know this.
Yeah, so it's kind of what's going on there with the kickoff rule, and of course I said back earlier, 2012 is whenever they moved it. So about 6 years ago, they moved the kickoff. The kickoff 5 yards, I think it's the 35 now, and if you touch back, you get to the 25 instead of the 20. Try to incentivize touchbacks there. So just another rule to try to add the more touchbacks, and I think eventually wane football fans off the need for kickoff. I think that's part of it is for it. But I'm like, you know what, just if you're going to do it, don't slowly rip off the Band-Aid. Just rip it off completely and just go on with it.
Or just have that one rule I just said. Make sure the kickers can kick through the field goal.
I mean, that'd be nice. The Baltimore Ravens who did that? Because we have Justin Tucker, and he can kick it a mile. So how about every time we make it through the extra point, it's a point extra for us. So it's Baltimore could do that because Justin Tucker's a really, really good kicker.
He's got a leg.
Automatic 2-point conversion every time because then you kick the extra point, and then you come back around and then kick it again.
Pretty much.
Just from a lot farther.
And you saw the
tee instead of a hold.
You saw the NFL do this too as well with the pushing the extra points back a little bit to make those a little more exciting. Because usually, it's only a 95%.
Points will never be exciting.
Now it's only a 95% chance I'm making it
instead
of a 99%
however, be a little
chance.
bit more interesting.
Is that every once in a while, the kicker missed an extra point.
Is he going to make it? Probably.
Just when he misses, it's now I'm going to catch that point. And you're
these guys literally get paid to kick a football. They better make it.
Through these two yellow upright thingies.
Yeah. Just saying.
Hey, special teams is the most exciting thing in NFL or in football, to me at least. I don't know why it is.
I like watching Tyreek Hill on punt return versus the Raiders.
Special teams can be the most exciting thing. The long punt returns, the long kick returns, those can be exciting. I don't want to watch guys kick extra points all day.
That's fair.
That's the thing. I grew up watching Janikowski kick 60-yarders all the time, and it was just fun to watch.
That's fine. Well, 60-yarders are fun. Yeah. Extra points aren't fun.
You don't enjoy the 21-yard field goal?
The only time extra points are fun to watch is when it's a tied game. There's no time on the clock, and these guys are actually trying to go after it and block the extra point. But other than that, you watch the defensive end on an extra point, and they just kind of stand there.
Nobody wants to watch an extra point
unless it's
again.
Blair Walsh kicking, and you might.
Kramer, I know you don't even want to watch it.
Hey, I don't know why. I'm a big fan of the kickers in the NFL.
That's fine. No, I get that.
Kickers are people too.
Yeah, they are.
And I love the long field goals, but the 33-yard extra points I can take relief.
That's fair. What most people do. Going there with all those rule changes and everything else happening in college football and also the NFL, different rule changes. Well, we were going short in each one of these segments. You can tell this is a very relaxed Friday here. No TV, so no TV guys to kind of keep us in check.
I love it. I love no TV. I can sit how I want. It doesn't matter.
I don't have to be dressed up. I'm wearing pretty much sweats right now and a long sleeve.
If microphone could reach, I might be laying on the floor right now.
I'm just leaned back.
Pretty tired.
Yeah, I've been moving around in my chair the whole time. I knew if the camera was there, I always kind of look over and I'm not in frame. I don't need to be in frame. It's fine. So
yeah, Devin can move finally.
We get to put the microphones where we want them.
Yeah, you just kind of move them around anytime you want to.
I like those cameras, but I don't like the angle on them. I can see my under chin really bad.
They do look kind of weird.
Yeah, it's especially you're kind of taller, so it's just straight hero shot. It's
exactly.
How about not?
I have to have it all the way down on this chair so I can be slumped.
Oh, we love the TV guys, though. We love them.
Yeah, shout out to Joe and Caleb.
Somehow it takes the last 2 weeks of the semester off. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah,
TV people.
Whatever.
TV people
Not
always
my problem.
quitting early.
What?
Yeah, they're always quitting early.
Say that like you have experience in that. They're things if you played a 3-on-3 basketball game and they quit early or something like that.
It was fun yesterday. Everybody getting together for the awards.
Yeah, it was.
The TV,
that was
paper.
fun.
Congratulations, Kramer. What award did you win?
Most improved.
Most improved.
You and Trevor shared it.
Yes, we did.
You and Trevor shared the "You Sucked Last Year" award.
Okay.
Did you get anything, Jacob?
No.
Dang, I voted for you.
I voted for you for best newbie, but
yeah, same.
and I won best existing practicum member, which I don't know what that means.
I think it's MVP. They just said it weird.
Right, probably.
I got sub practicum leader, but somehow with all these awards the sports guys got, we did not get best practicum. I don't know how that didn't happen.
So you would say I'm the comeback of the year, right?
Comeback player of the year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
That means
call me.
exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
As
That's
most
why I said
improved.
it.
He could have been injured
It
last
still
year.
means you sucked last year.
Maybe he was just hurt last year. Okay, he's bouncing back from injury.
Is that any better?
We know Trevor was. Why is Trevor not here again?
Because you fired him?
Yeah, you fired him.
That's right. I think at work or something. He's getting paid to do something. So. Oh.
How does that work? Does the current sports director firing the incoming sports director?
It's just
It
at this
doesn't.
point it's completely pointless because
Oh, also,
not my problem
speaking
at
of
this point.
Harbaugh, I just saw this on ESPN. He was threatened on Twitter.
By who?
I feel like it's a daily thing.
Yeah, that's seriously
No.
that really is.
Like that's not surprising at all.
I'm trying to find the actual tweet here, but it
I wonder
was
how many people actually threaten Jim Harbaugh per day on Twitter?
I mean, I do when I'm watching the games, but that's
Well, yeah,
That's a different
Saturdays in
story.
the fall have got to be even more often than.
something about a series of tweet from one account Monday that also include mention of the state's open carry firearm laws and calling the morgue.
Oh,
That's not great. The account with the same name as a former Wolverine player who parted ways with the program last November. It's a police investigation right now. Wow. So yeah,
that's
we got
not what you want.
Yeah.
It's like it's a serious matter. Yes, it's a very
Yeah.
serious.
That's don't do that, kids.
Not okay.
Not cool.
Not okay. So yeah, they're investigating that right now in Michigan, and some of the police department there in Detroit are kind of going through that. So, but he's confident the university will properly handle the situation with the threatening tweets. So that's don't do that, people. Not cool whatsoever. Don't think that need to be said, but apparently it does for some.
Apparently, don't threaten people. It's not cool.
Yep. So, South Dakota isn't. What teacher do we have that's from South Dakota?
Kyle Miller.
Kyle, yeah. Their football
about him?
coach has signed an extension through 2021.
Okay, I was like, you can't just say a state and then not explain anything.
I'm just.
Oh, by the way, South Dakota.
What? Bob Nielsen contract extension, so he's getting longer there for the Coyotes. So we're gonna take a break.
Yeah, we are.
When we are. We come back. We'll talk about the NFL schedule release yesterday and kind of
We'll
see.
probably actually have something to talk about when we come back.
Yes, we will. Schedule release NFL yesterday. Stuff was leaking before. Now it's all out. We'll see. We'll take a break next here on Casey Lex. The weekend sports kickoff is about to start. The opinions on the show are the opinions of the host and guest on WSK alone. These opinions do not represent KZLX, Northwest Missouri State University, or Bearcat Athletics. Enjoy the show. As we are back on the weekend sports kickoff, Devin Albertson, Kramer Sandstone, Jacob Blair, and Ryan Elliott. As it's time to talk about
that's me.
the NFL schedule release. Oh, you got me there.
Really? That was all it took?
A little bit.
I wasn't expecting that at
I
all.
wasn't ready for that at all.
Good. Like to keep you guys on your toes.
Well, good. As yesterday, the schedule was released for the entire NFL. The schedule.
I just want to point out that this is as far as we've gotten into this song, too. Oh, there it goes.
I usually play the whole thing. I always pot it down a little bit longer, a little bit farther. But yeah, the Chiefs' first two games are at the Chargers and at the Steelers, and their first home game is Week 3, September 23rd versus Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers. What do you guys think of this kind of schedule here for the Chiefs? I'll go to my Chiefs fans first because Kramer's just kind of over there in Raider Nation.
I think it's a middle-of-the-road schedule, really. I mean, it's not the toughest schedule I've ever seen in my life, but it's not the easiest either. You know, you talk about Steelers on the road, Patriots on the road, neutral site against the Rams. You know, that's 3 tough games right there, but we'll just have to see how it shakes out.
And at Seattle would have been a tough game 2 years ago, but now it's not as tough as it was in the past. So that's one thing to kind of look forward to. One thing I looked at was the road games to start the year.
Yep.
3 of the first 4 weeks you're on the road at LA, at Pitt, you're home versus San Francisco, then at Denver. So it's a tough way to start the season on the road so much.
Yeah, the first 6 weeks for the Chiefs are going to be probably the key for the season.
Yep.
Just if they can get out of the first 6 weeks at 500, I think they're going to be in good shape for the rest of the year because you're going to play at the Chargers. That's going to be a tougher game than it's been in the past. They're going to be better this year. the Steelers, which always seem to have the Chiefs' numbers. You come back, you're going to play a good 49ers. The 49ers are going to be good this year. And then you've got
If not good, at least better.
Yeah, better. Yeah. And then you're going to play at the Broncos. Then you're going to get a tough Jaguars team. Then you got to go back and play at the Patriots. That's a tough way to start the season, especially when you've got a rookie quarterback essentially behind center.
And then you've got a stretch of home against the Bengals, home against the Browns, or home against the Broncos anyway, at the Browns, at home against the Cardinals. That's 4 games in a row that should be winnable.
Yeah, and that's where if you can get through those first 6 games at 500, then all of a sudden you're looking at hopefully 7-3 going into the last 6 games of the season.
And if you look at the first 6 games you said there, 2 of those are primetime games. At Denver's a Monday night game, and then at New England's a Sunday night game 2 weeks after that. So you'll be in the primetime there for a little bit to start the season. And, of course, I want to see how Mahomes handles this pressure early and how the defense – you're playing a lot of decent quarterbacks here early. I mean, you have Rivers, of course, as well, documented, Big Ben, Jimmy Garoppolo. Still, Denver has Keenum right now. We'll see how he fits in their system. Then you have Bortles, but they have a really good defense. And then you have Tom Brady. So it's not like a very easy, forgiving early schedule there with quarterbacks. But then you get Dalton, probably Keenum again. Whoever the Browns start, probably Tyrod Taylor. Sam Bradford, if he's healthy for Arizona. And then you have Jared Goff at Mexico, win that Mexico City game on Monday Night Football before the buys. So I like the later buys because you kind of get through that first 11 games and you get a rest right before the playoff push. So I kind of like that. So it's kind of what's going on here for the Chiefs.
Do we want to get some way too early record predictions?
Do it.
You guys up for that?
Yeah.
Have you guys gone through the schedule? We good to go?
Yes.
Evan, you got one?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, cool. I'm going. Well, I was gonna not go first because I'm doing something different, but I will go first.
Want Jacob to go first?
I'm going 11-4-1.
Where's the tie coming from?
So I'll just go through the schedule. At Chargers, that's a W for me.
Dub.
At the Steelers, that's a loss.
Yeah, probably.
Win against the 49ers, a win in Denver. Loss against the Jaguars, loss at the Patriots. That's 3-3 through the first 6. Exactly what Jacob said. Then run off 4 wins in a row. Bengals, Broncos, Browns, Cardinals.
Dub.
All right. The tie comes against the Rams in Mexico City. I think that's going to be a fantastic football game. Which it probably won't happen, but a win in Oakland, a win against the Ravens, a win against the Chargers, and a win at the Seahawks, and then a win at home against the Raiders to finish the season off.
I like sweeping the Raiders. That's always nice.
11-4-1.
How about you, Jacob?
I have the Chiefs. Well, I had the Chiefs at 11-5, and then went back through the schedule, and I said, even though Mahomes is behind center, this is still the Chiefs. They're going to do something stupid. So I went back and fixed that and had them losing a game they shouldn't lose. But I'm similar.
Which one is that? First of all,
I'll get to it.
Okay.
At the Chargers week 1, they'll win that one. They'll lose to the Steelers because the Chiefs cannot beat the Steelers. Then they'll beat the 49ers back at home. They'll beat the Broncos. Lost to the Jaguars, lost to the Patriots. Through those first 6, they'll be 3-3. And then at home against the Bengals, they'll get a win there. At home against the Broncos, another win. At the Browns, they'll win that one. And then here's where they're going to drop one at home, because it's always at home, too. They're going to lose to the Cardinals.
that one would hurt. That one would hurt big time.
And then,
Sam Bradford's not the answer in Arizona.
And if he's not starting, it's McCown.
and that's why the Chiefs are going to find a way to lose that football game, because it's still
time.
the Chiefs. And then they'll lose to the Rams in Mexico City, and then come back after the bye, beat the Raiders, beat the Ravens, beat the Chargers, then they'll lose to the Seahawks, and then beat the Raiders in Week 17, which puts them at 10-6.
The Chiefs are 8-1 in December the past 3 years.
And the key with at least what I think both Ryan and I have is another
Is it 8-1
6
at home in December the last.
It might be.
Another 6-0 in the division again for the Chiefs, which should give them another AFC West title. And I think no matter what happens, the AFC West, I think all 4 teams are going to be 500 or above. And so if you can go 6-0 in the division, well, Broncos won't be, sorry. But the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Chiefs will all be above 500. You can go 6-0 in the division. You'll probably will end up winning the division.
Because I think they talked about this is the 3rd year in a row that they've had 3 December home games.
You're right. It was home games 8-1.
Cool.
So Mitch Holtis with the tweet. Shout out.
Shout out to my boy Mitch.
Kramer?
You want to go from team by team like you guys did?
Chiefs
you
1-15?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I go game by game, I should say.
1-15? 1-15 is what you got on
I
there?
wish.
Whatever you
No.
want.
I said the final record overall would be 8-8.
Okay.
I mean, I said for the first 6 games, I feel
Serviceable.
like they're going to win just one of the first 6 games, and that will be against the Broncos. But then they'll go on a tear and at least split the series with Oakland, like they usually do. That's just me. I mean, I don't feel like going through every single game because I don't care about the Chiefs. So it's like I want them to lose every game.
That's fair.
That'd be nice with me.
That's definitely fair.
So 8-8.
8-8. I think I have them going 9-7.
I want to see Mahomes do I actually want to see him play a full season, and he has a great arm, and
Yeah, he does.
For the first 6 games this coming year, I just want to see. That's those first 6 games. We'll see what Mahomes can do.
That's the tough reason why the Chiefs' first 6 games is
Crucial.
really tough, because Mahomes, he said it, the Chiefs have said, if you look at the Chiefs' offensive roster, it is really talented, but then having to figure it out the first 6 games with the opponents they have to figure it out with, that's where it gets a little scary for the Chiefs, where if they do, and I see they could end up going 1-5 for the first 6 games, and then you're chasing it the rest of the season, trying to find a way to get a wild card spot, and it makes it really difficult.
And here's what I think is encouraging as a Chiefs fan. I think you look at this schedule, and I only see 4 games that they have a better chance to lose than they do to win. You got at Pittsburgh, at home against the Jaguars, in New England, and Mexico City against the Rams. Those, to me, are the only 4 games that anybody could say could go, would be the Chiefs would be the underdog in at this point.
So I can't say 15-1 with the one loss being at Cleveland.
The
Chiefs would do that, by the way.
It's the NFL. It's possible, but I doubt it.
The Chiefs would do that, though. They would beat Pittsburgh on the road, they beat New England on the road, then lose to
Hey, I
Cleveland.
think Cleveland could win 6 games this
I think
year.
it'd be better, but the Chiefs would do that. They would just lose a game like that. I think they're going to start 2-4. I'm not sure exactly which 4 games they're going to lose, but I believe they're going to beat LA and Denver. They could lose at San Francisco home game and struggle there 2-4, but I think they finished 9-7 and are in line for either fighting for the division title with Oakland the last week or a wild card spot. So I think it's right there for the Chiefs. I think the schedule is a little bit tougher than we expected, especially with the Chiefs' defense, unless they retool a lot in the draft. And the draft will tell a lot with the predictions coming forward, because you want to see what they bring in talent-wise on that side of the ball. I think the offense will be fine, but I think Mahomes, for a couple of games, they probably could finish 11-5, but they might throw a couple of interceptions that are untimely, and they end up finishing 9-7, but they're a very talented 9-7 team, like they kind of were a couple of years ago.
Well, I think you could even look at, this could go anywhere from
6-10 to 10-5.
Well, I think you even talk about, if they have a really bad year, it's 7-9. If they have, if they win every game that they're supposed to, win every game that they're slightly favored in, and then take a coin toss against the Jaguars, they could be 13-3.
Yeah, and they match up well with New England. I mean, last year they beat New England in New England opening night and kind of took it to them. So they match up well with the Patriots.
And if the Chiefs do end up going something like 9-7, and 9-7 is good enough, they'll probably get the 6th seed. The Chiefs would be a very scary 6th seed this year.
Yeah, depending on who the 1 seed is.
Well, and
if the 1 seed's Pittsburgh, it's nope, that's it. Game over.
I think regardless of what happens, this will be a different looking Chiefs team than we've seen since Andy Reid got to Kansas City. It's going to look a little bit different, which might bode better for the season for the Chiefs.
And I'm excited to see Mahomes play, because he's going to play exciting. He's going to play exciting football, and he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. He's going to throw for quite a few yards. He's also going to make some mistakes, and I'm just kind of planning for those mistakes to kind of happen, because the Chiefs haven't had to deal with a bunch of turnovers from their quarterback the past couple of years with Alex Smith playing a more conservative style. So while he's going to make more plays and probably score a little more points, they'll also have all those turnovers kind of hold them back a little bit. They might lose a game, say, versus Denver, instead of winning that game because they don't turn the ball over, they throw a pick 6 or something, they lose the game. It's like, we should have won that one, but young quarterback, you got to kind of feed through that stuff to year one, and their defense is still a question mark.
I think you see 10-6 as a huge. I mean, that's an accomplishment. That's an absolute accomplishment. I think that's a good year right now. I think like I say, you have the capability of 13-3. I think is the ceiling here, and I think the floor is probably, like you said, 7-9, 6-10. If you just have a really bad year, everybody gets hurt, that kind of thing. But
this offense is too explosive not to be exciting, though.
Right.
And where the first 6 weeks we've talked about, it gets a little bit scary. I think we'll see Mahomes have the same number of interceptions as touchdowns through those first 6 weeks, and then we'll see those numbers separate him. And those first 6 games will, like you said, make him a lot more mature as a quarterback. But the number to touchdown to interception ratio will be very close to 1 through those first 6 weeks.
And I think this is going to be an exciting unknown, because we've seen Mahomes effectively twice, in that first year.
Yeah.
once in a regular season game. And I think, a lot of people are like, well, he could be really good. He could be, a rookie, a typical rookie, he's not a rookie anymore, but you get the point. He could be a typical first-time starter. He
freshman.
could be, that kind of thing. I think it's possible that the 1 year under Alex Smith did more for him than we thought.
Yeah, definitely
It's
possible.
also possible that he comes out and is still a kid,
Yeah.
But I think if we come out and see that the year under Alex Smith did more for him than we thought, he's got all the tools to be something really, really special. And so I think if he can come out and keep his head on his shoulders through those first 6 games, I think, a 1 touchdown interception ratio is certainly possible. But I also think, through 6 games, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions is also possible.
Yeah, definitely. If this Chiefs team starts out 5-0, I might lose my mind though, because that's a really tough schedule to start the year. Last year they started out 5-0, and I was still pretty excited. But if they start 5-0 with this schedule with a new quarterback, I might lose my mind. So I'm like, we're never losing a game ever again. Then January comes.
We're never losing a game ever again. Then you get smacked by
We're
Pittsburgh.
sitting here in the
playoffs.
fall, and we're talking about the Chiefs on this show, and we get something from Devin on the live stream saying the Chiefs are never losing again. I think we all just would need to walk out of the studio and
Let's
end
see.
the show
We're talking.
right
If they start 5-0, then the next week's at New England. Good luck with that, Devin.
We're never losing ever again.
And they show up in Cleveland and get beat by Tyrod Taylor
At Old Takes Exposed.
3-0.
3-0. How do you get beat by Tyrod Taylor if they only win 3-0?
Last year, what was it, 10-7?
I mean, it almost happened to the Jaguars in the playoffs.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, last year they played Buffalo, and that game was ugly. What was the final score? It was 16-10, so it wasn't that much prettier. So
And the Jaguars, Buffalo, Jacksonville was like 10-3. Yeah,
oof, brutal.
That's great.
Hey, but one thing I am excited about, sorry, Kramer, but Derek Carr playing in Arrowhead in December is never a pretty thing for the Raiders.
Oh,
and
no.
It's the last week of the
if he
regular
even
season.
makes it to Arrowhead in December.
I just want him to stay healthy. that's the first
Just
thing. He has to
get
be-
there.
He has to
You
be
don't,
healthy.
you don't
before
have to
he
play well. Just get there. Just be under center on December 30th.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like their schedule late because they got 4 of your last 5 games are AFC opponents and 3 of them are divisional opponents, so you can definitely
Make up some ground if you
vault
need.
up the standings if
Yeah.
you have to. So I like that. It's kind of like last year when they played the Raiders, Chargers, Broncos in the year, and they secured the division before Week 17. You got to see Mahomes play. That was nice to
And-
see those happen.
And I'll tell you what the bottom line is. The bottom line is it's the NFL, and
Yeah.
we could see a 6-0 Chiefs team after 6 games. We could see a 1-5 Chiefs team after 6 games. We could see an 0-6
You could also
Chiefs
see,
team
you could also
after
see the
6
Broncos winning the division.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either.
games. Not with Case Keenum playing
Yeah, you're right.
quarterback. He's not the answer either. Sorry, guys.
Maybe Paxton Lynch. I'm kidding.
Maybe
Oh,
somebody
my.
in the
Works.
draft.
Oh my!
Maybe somebody in the
Aren't
draft.
they selling their pick right now though?
They're
Isn't
trying to
John
sell
Elway
everything.
Trying to sell, yeah.
Everything's kind of going up for sale.
Jeez.
Never mind.
What?
I was gonna say something. I'll just wait.
All right, speaking of selling a pick, do you think the Patriots could possibly take that pick?
That's definitely interesting. They have enough firepower, I think.
Yeah.
They have 2 first-round picks, 2 seconds, and 2
I don't
fourths,
see
I
a
believe.
reason for them to though,
Yeah, I don't either. I've just been seeing a lot of
unless they
rumors
are
lately. They're trying to go up to the top because just they're
unless
trying to
they
get a
are
quarterback.
dead set on one of those top 4 quarterbacks being Tom Brady's replacement.
It's got to be for that stuff to happen there with New England. So, yeah, but I'm sure Denver's selling everything at a high value this weekend. So,
That's a good question though, Greg.
Well, the one interesting thing with the Patriots is I saw this week that there are rumors that Tom Brady is not confirmed he's coming back for this season. I don't believe that.
I don't believe it
I don't
either.
believe
He's
it
coming
either.
back.
But
Come on
but
now.
there was stuff that it's not. I mean, and the
Right.
key word is it's not confirmed he's coming back.
Yeah.
So he's had his first inkling of thinking about retirement.
So
Or has he? I mean,
So
this
that means
it
he's
could
4
be
years-
somebody
that means
totally
he-
making that up.
And that well, even if it is true, that means he's 4 years away from even actually retiring.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's having his first inkling of thinking about retirement,
Or
That's-
until Week 6 when Justin Houston meets him in the pocket.
or that.
Let's go. I'm so excited.
It's
Can
gonna
it be
a good year.
October 14th yet?
It's going to be a fun year in the NFL. I think because the Browns aren't going to just totally be horrible.
I mean,
They now
can't keep
have a
being
little
horrible.
bit more parity,
Yeah.
just a little bit. The Browns aren't now an automatic win for everybody, so that might be interesting.
I mean, the Dolphins tried to lose to him last year like 3 times. They couldn't do it, though.
See, well, and the
3 times.
the
tried.
Browns this year, the way they are shaping up, they're not going to be an automatic win for anybody.
No, yeah, not with all the talent that they are loading up over there.
especially after the draft, they'll have a lot more talent coming in there. The Chiefs, they do have 5 primetime games. Week 4 at Denver on Monday Night Football. Week 6 at New England on Sunday Night Football. Week 11 in Mexico City versus the Rams for Monday Night Football. And you'll have Week 15, a Thursday night game versus the Chargers in Arrowhead. And then Week 16 at Seattle for Sunday Night Football. That game could be flexed out, though. We'll still see for that. They have 4 guaranteed, and the 5th one could be flexed.
That L.A. game, that Chargers game on December 13th is another possibility of a game that they should win that they'll drop just because it's a short week.
After playing Baltimore.
After playing Baltimore, a short week at Arrowhead on a Thursday night. A lot of teams struggle with short weeks.
One thing that's good, though, is they're playing at home both those games, so there's less travel. Last year they had that home Sunday Night Football, Sunday game versus Pittsburgh, and then they went at Oakland the next Thursday, and that was brutal. Lost both those games. So, yeah, that was kind of brutal. Push-offs. Anyways, sorry, Crabtree. I don't like him.
I mean, it was a push-off.
Who won?
With ourselves.
I don't want to hear that.
They
did win. They did
Raiders,
win.
Honestly, the Chiefs should never have been in that situation to begin with.
The game should already been over by now.
Otherwise,
That's fair.
If the Chiefs hadn't put themselves in that position, it wouldn't have mattered. So
didn't the final 0 seconds of the game last 15 minutes?
The Chiefs deserved to lose that football game.
Yeah, their defense is what killed them on that game. Chiefs should have won that game hands down.
The Chiefs deserved to lose that football game, but it was a push-off.
Which one? The first touchdown or the last touchdown? I always forget.
Who won?
I know Oakland. It's fine.
What did I just say? Listen to what I'm saying.
What have the Raiders got this year, Kramer? What have they got on their schedule?
Not enough.
They have 4 primetime games too, don't they?
Yes, they have 4 primetime games. I mean,
they have the opening weekend, the second Monday Night Football game versus the Rams. That's gonna be interesting there.
Probably after that, the hardest opponent would be the Browns. No, I'm joking. It's not the Browns. They have Niners week 9, and towards the back half, like I said, the Chiefs twice. They have the Steelers week 14. I mean, but typically this schedule's not too hard. I just want to see how of course, how the Broncos and Chargers will be with this season, because you never know with this division.
Yeah,
and anything can happen.
It helps you get playing a third place schedule, so you get to avoid New England. You just get to play Pittsburgh instead of both them and Houston.
It's nice. I'm not gonna lie. This is I like this. I like this schedule.
Yeah, so
as a fan, yes.
Yeah, it could be interesting there for Oakland with those games. Of course, you said that first Monday Night Football game, the second probably doubleheader versus the Rams. Then they have the Niners on Thursday Night Football in San Francisco. Then they have the Sunday Night Football game versus Pittsburgh, and then Monday night versus Denver again. So that's kind of what their schedule looks like, and of course, they end the year in Kansas City.
I think it's interesting that a lot of people are giving the 49ers so much credit. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback.
He hasn't lost.
And they added,
never
5
lost.
games. Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback, and they added an aging Richard Sherman. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, the rest of that roster is really not that talented.
I believe in Kyle Shanahan offensively.
I think that they're going to be better than they were.
They'll be 100% better.
I still don't know if they're a playoff team.
This is who they beat down the stretch with Garoppolo at quarterback. They won at Chicago, at Houston, versus Tennessee, versus Jacksonville, and at the Rams, who were playing for nothing. So it's kind of
not good.
The Jacksonville win was good. It was 44-33, so you can't really allow 33 points from Blake Bortles. But they did score 44 on Jacksonville's defense, so that's impressive.
Right. But it's just I don't think that they deserve as much credit as a lot of people are giving them. Just because Jimmy Garoppolo has yet to prove that he can do it for an entire season. He's got 5 games under his belt in San Francisco.
Yep.
4 games in, or not even 4 games.
It was
in New
1.5 in New England.
Yeah, and so
never lost though.
We'll see.
I like San Francisco this year. I think they're going to finish second in the division behind the Rams. I'm not a big believer in Arizona or Seattle this year. I think Seattle's going to take a big step back. They've had so much chaos up there. I like Russell Wilson a lot, but how long can he run behind a broken offensive line before he is just laying on the field? I mean, there's only so much you can do as a quarterback before you're like, somebody please block that guy. Like, I'm playing the same division as Aaron Darnold and Ndamukong Suh. Somebody block one of them, please.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
And all the Legion of Boom I think there's only one left with Kim Chancellor.
Yeah. So definitely interesting to kind of see how that's all going to shape itself out in the NFL for the schedule release. And I always kind of entertained by you're sitting there Thursday, like, we're releasing at 6 o'clock tonight. And it's like, Yeah, the Patriots' whole schedule already came out like 30 minutes ago.
Right.
So you're looking at the Chiefs like, well, see, Jacksonville's released theirs, Baltimore, New England, Cincinnati has. We have a few of our games set here.
But the Patriots get the 49ers week 1. Did I see that? Jimmy Garoppolo against Tom Brady in week 1.
I might be true. I'm gonna look real quick. No,
I
it's
just-
at Minnesota.
I just feel like the 49ers this year
Why did I see that?
they're just going to be that team that's just going to win the games that like basically needs to be won, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
like are the games are like upsets to them, but they actually like just dominate.
Yeah.
That's
The
one
New
thing. That's one thing I'm worried about with the Niners.
Yeah, definitely. And the New England, they open with Houston. They go at Jacksonville for week 2. That's their first 2 games.
Okay.
So Deshaun Watson versus Tom Brady for week 1.
Be fun.
So that's kind of interesting. And see if Andrew Luck is back. 'Cause if so, they could face Watson. They got Bortles, Stafford, Tannehill from Miami, then Luck and Mahomes. So it could be interesting to kind of see.
So they're alternating.
Yeah, alternating.
Good quarterback, bad quarterback. Good quarterback, bad quarterback.
Trubisky, whoever Buffalo starts, Aaron Rodgers, Marcus Mariota. So kind of interesting to kind of see what their schedule turns out this year. New England does get Green Bay and Minnesota both at home this year. They have to travel to the other 2 teams in the division, in Chicago and Detroit. So they got the lucky draw there a little bit with just who they had to go to in the division for road games. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there with the NFL schedule release. Always kind of interesting when the Chiefs' full schedule got released. I did like what the Chiefs did on Twitter though, with the whole schedule on Netflix thing. They bit with Mahomes and Sammy Watkins. That was entertaining.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well done there. Well put together by the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's all we really have for the schedule release. We'll get more. You can get more into the schedule after you kind of see the draft picks and training camp a little bit more, because at this point the teams aren't fully constructed, so it's kind of hard to tell. Like, hey, we're gonna finish 11-5. Well, it's like, yeah, let's kind of see what we get for the safeties and defensive backs for the Chiefs a little bit more, because they need a lot of help on defense still. And we're kind of projecting they'll retool a little bit in the draft, but we need to kind of see who they bring in before we do anything concrete. And same thing with kind of other teams in the division. The Broncos still kind of a question mark at quarterback. What are they going to do? The Raiders, they're going to find anybody to be with Khalil Mack on the defense. What are the Chargers going to do to help their roster? It's already pretty good if they can help Rivers out more on offense and just stuff like that going forward. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, the draft is next Thursday. So we're going to do our top 10 picks, our own little mock drafts next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KZLX FM. As we are back here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Devin Albertson, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone. No Trevor today, so we're all happy.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I love you, Trevor. I'm kidding. I love Trevor. There's time for our NFL mock
I'm
draft.
glad there's one person.
There's one person. We're so rude to Trevor, but it's okay. He'll be fine next year. As with the NFL mock draft, we're going to give our top 10 picks. As of right now, the order of those picks will be the Browns, Giants, Jets, Browns, Broncos, Colts, Buccaneers, Bears, Niners, and the Raiders.
And this is why our mock
Raiders.
draft,
The
our mock
Raiders.
drafts might not mean a whole lot. Is I would guess that order will change before draft night.
Almost certainly.
Almost.
And I don't think the Browns will have number 1 pick.
Ooh. Do you have a trade?
Yeah, trade. But I'm still going as with the Browns having it in our
Betting
mock
into
draft.
Okay. You can do trades if you want to, though. I'm up for anything.
I mean, the only trade I feel like is going to happen is I feel like the Patriots will give up their first 2 first-rounders for that first-round pick.
For number 1 overall pick. Ooh.
Yeah.
Jumping all the way up to number 1. That would be definitely interesting here. Who wants to go first and give their first pick for the draft?
The first pick or
Yes.
the first 10 picks?
The first overall pick.
Just the first overall pick? I'll go first. Look at you. Look at you being all fancy.
I tried.
I think that excuse me, sorry. I think that the Browns take Sam Darnold, number 1 overall. I think he's the most NFL ready quarterback. I think eventually they realize that, even though they've been connected a lot to Josh Allen. I think they go with Darnold, and I think that's the number 1 overall pick.
Jacob.
Yeah, I agree. I went back and forth between Allen and Darnold a lot. For some reason, the Browns seem to really have an interest in Allen, but I think they will do something the Browns don't do and make the right decision with this draft, and they'll take Darnold first overall.
Kramer.
I'm doing the trend. Sam Darnold.
All right. So with the
I'm
you had to explain- you had
just going with the
reasoning.
trend.
Nope.
Nope, just go with it.
With the first pick of the 2018 draft, the Cleveland Browns select quarterback Sam Darnold, USC. So that's what we have kind of going with that first round. I think I listened to Joel Klatt the other day on Fox Sports 1, and he was talking with Colin Cowherd. He said the film tells him Sam Darnold, but all of the sources and stuff like that connected to the team telling him Josh Allen, and he's just kind of worried about maybe the listening to other people is kind of influencing a lot of mock drafts to pick Josh Allen number 1 instead of just going with the film and saying Darnold's the better prospect of the two. So it's interesting to kind of see how that's going to shape up.
And here's where I can say, after that pick, I believe the rest of our mock draft will be different.
Yes, probably.
That will be the last consensus pick we make.
Probably.
In my first mock draft here, I kind of did two. I did the other one where I kind of played around with some trades, but the first one, the Giants, I haven't taken Josh Rosen. I think they're going to get a quarterback. I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever because I think they're going to trade it. But if they do, I think they need a quarterback and then a guy that can groom for the future. And I would take Josh Rosen out of UCLA for number 2 overall for the Giants.
I think another position that they need big time is a running back. So I think they go Barkley number 2.
Definitely possible.
I think he's just a one. There's a possibility anyway. He has once in a generation ability. He has once in a generation potential. So I think that they're hoping they get a once in a generation talent out of Saquon Barkley. So I think they take Barkley too.
Yeah, I think they're going to go ahead and take Josh Rosen. I think some of that just stems from the idea of just how much hype the quarterbacks have gotten in this draft. I think a lot of them have been overhyped, and the Giants will be like, well, we've got a good possible prospect here. We need to grab him because Eli's getting old, and they'll go ahead and pick up Josh Rosen.
I'm just going to go on record here and say that I'm picking mine as if I were in the front office of each of these teams. What I think these teams should pick, just so we know.
Okay, that's fair.
What I'm picking for the Giants would be Josh Allen, the other quarterback in this, because I feel like Josh Allen's a little bit better than Josh Rosen. Rosen.
Rosen.
Yeah, Rosen. Yeah, no, I that's why Josh Allen's the Giants.
And in my other mock draft, I had the Bills trading up to number 2 and taking Josh Allen. So that's my other one. I had them trading up. I think they want a big, strong-arm quarterback, and that's what they would want in their division, would be a Josh Allen-type quarterback. Number 3, you have the New York Jets to trade up earlier in the offseason with the Colts to get to number 3. We'll go to Jacob first. Jacob, who has the Jets?
I have the Jets taking Josh Allen. So 3 quarterbacks in a row for me. I think all 3 teams at the top of the draft that are there right now all need quarterbacks, and Allen, after Darnold and Rosen are taken, will probably be the best available quarterback, so then the Jets will go ahead and pick him up.
Kramer?
I'm going with Saquon Barkley. I know it's falling a little bit late because, I don't know, Jets need a running back. That's all I got to say. There's really not much for me to say about this, 'cause I haven't really been paying too much coverage of it, but I do know the big names.
Ryan.
The Jets also need a quarterback, so I'm also going with Josh Allen. They have to answer that somehow. So I think they might go with Allen as the answer.
And the only reason I don't think they don't go with Barkley is because they traded up from 6 to 3. And they use a lot of collateral to do so. I don't think you do that for a running back. I think you do it for a quarterback. And for me, this is probably my most confident pick in the top 10. Baker Mayfield to the Jets at number 3 from Oklahoma.
Interesting.
I think it's my most confident. If Sam Darnold's off the board, they're taking Mayfield. Be my guess there for the Jets. So that's probably my most confident pick in the top, at least top 5 at least for this draft. Number 4, I have them taking the Cleveland Browns taking defensive end Bradley Chubb at North Carolina State.
I think that's an interesting choice. I think they need to address a little bit more important team need, though, and they really need some help on the back end of that defense. I've got them with Minka Fitzpatrick at number 4.
And for me, it was kind of like a Chubb, Nelson, Barkley, Fitzpatrick kind of thing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think Chubb is the best available player of those 4. And if they can put him and Myles Garrett together, it could be a really lethal defensive line and help out the young quarterback to get some stops.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think that if they didn't have kind of a bit of a hole at the back end of that defense, that would be the choice to make. But if I were the Browns anyway, I would pick Minka Fitzpatrick.
I'm going to agree with Devin. I think the Browns will take Bradley Chubb at that 4th, and they'll go get their quarterback. And this is where I kind of will they get Saquon Barkley? Will they not? But I think they'll go and they'll try to get the best defensive player available in this draft, and I think that's Bradley Chubb.
Kramer?
Chubb. Yeah. The only reason I had this set up to where Barkley got picked by the Jets and Chubb, because I was going to say Barkley was going to go to the Browns, but you never know, anything can happen through this draft. And obviously Barkley is a 1-2 pick. Either way, so that's why the best player for the Browns would be Chubb.
And with some of these guys, they're probably top 3 valued picks, but with all the quarterbacks being so highly valued, they've been sliding down a bit. So if you're the 7 overall pick with the Buccaneers, you're going to get a good player because some of those other guys have been pushed down a bit. And I really thought about the Browns taking Quentin Nelson because they would need someone to kind of replace that O-line steadiness that Joe Thomas was retiring. They could use that, but since he's a guard, I slid him down a little bit. I have Quentin Nelson going number 5 to the Denver Broncos, guard out of Notre Dame.
My man, I got the same thing. Because the Broncos really need help on the offensive line. Their offensive line's pretty weak right now, and Quentin Nelson is built like a Mack truck.
Yes, he is.
The man is 6'5", 329. He's got incredible hips, which is really, really important, especially for a guard.
Yep.
Because if you're pulling around, I mean, you have to have some good hips, and Quentin Nelson does. So I think that he's number 5 to the Broncos.
I have Quentin Nelson as well at the number 5 spot. And this is because the Broncos do need to address a possible need at quarterback and try again. But with Darnold, Rosen, and Allen all probably being gone by number 5, the rest of the quarterbacks I don't think are worth that number 5 pick, and they do need help on the offensive line. Quentin Nelson will really help with that.
All right, and Kramer.
I said Josh Rosen. I can't pronounce this.
Rosen, yeah.
Rosen. It's one of them days. Yeah, they need
Rosen.
a quarterback. They need a quarterback, and Keenum's not the answer. Maybe he's their future.
Yeah, definitely possible there with Denver. And, of course, they're also a place that, as John always said, they're open for business, for trades and stuff like that. So definitely have picked to – I think we have 2, 4, and 5 of the picks you could look for a possible trade-ups into the first round.
Well, I think if you're looking at the Broncos here, if they get a team that wants to trade up and they go down into the mid-teens worth of a pick, I mean, Lamar Jackson's still going to be there. I think Baker Mayfield might still be there at that point. And if they get lucky, if Rosen slides, Josh Rosen could potentially be down there at that point as well. So maybe it's possible that they feel like they can get a good potential quarterback later in that first round as well.
And again, there with Quentin Nelson, not very often you see a guard projected a top 5 pick, but he is that
He's
good.
so good.
Good.
He is just a monster, man. Just a monster.
All right, now we'll go to number 6, the Indianapolis Colts. Kramer.
I'll wait for a second.
Yeah, you got to wait for the time.
For the 6th pick of the NFL draft, Fitzpatrick, the defensive end. It's either
The safety.
The safety.
The safety, my bad.
Mika Fitzpatrick is a defensive back.
So
Yeah,
it's all right.
I don't.
It's fine.
Yeah, defensive back, my bad.
It's cool.
I put something wrong on my paper, but still. Yeah, they needed to address some defense-wise, and the
You
Colts.
could play Fitzpatrick at defensive end. It wouldn't go very
No,
well.
it wouldn't go- my bad. Typo on my part. But yeah, they need to address the defense somehow. They need it everywhere on their defense.
Yep.
It's not that good at all. I don't think their offense wouldn't be even that good. But yeah, Fitzpatrick.
Jacob.
I have them taking Roquan Smith, the linebacker from Georgia,
Ooh,
at that
interesting.
6th pick. And like Kramer said, the Colts need about everything. So that'll address one of their many needs, and I think that'd be a good pick and a good fit for the Indianapolis Colts.
I think that would be a good pick, too, if Bradley Chubb isn't on the board yet, or isn't on the board anymore. But in my draft, Bradley Chubb is still on the board, so I'm having him taking Bradley Chubb. I think Chubb's another one of those guys that he's got the skill and has the potential to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL, and I think anybody in the NFL could use one of those, and the Colts for sure, with a defense that needs everything. So Chubb would be a good selection.
I think the best 2 picks for the Colts would be either Chubb or Nelson, but since I have them both gone off my board, it's Saquon Barkley for me at 6. He's still on the board at 6. You have to take him. He's that talented of a running back. I think he's going to fall to 6, and the Colts are going to eat him up. And I think if Andrew Luck is healthy, he's going to love having a running back and hand the ball off too, and have some. You got someone you can throw the ball out of the backfield too as well. So Barkley would be a nice weapon there for Andrew Luck in that offense. Now to number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I haven't taken safety Mika Fitzpatrick out of Alabama. I think he's going to slide down just a bit here to 7. I think it's going to be a great pick for the Buccaneers to have a guy who can play a little bit of safety, a little bit of nickel corner as well. Just a guy who can do anything in that secondary. So I think Tampa gets a really good player at 7 with Mika Fitzpatrick.
I also can play defensive end in my book.
Yeah.
Needs to put a little more weight on it
He's
for
a
that, but
multi-tool player. Incredible. Play all the way from corner to defensive end. It's insane.
almost like on a nose guard, but anyways.
Yeah, right.
Ryan.
I've got an interesting pick here. I've got him going Daron Payne, the defensive lineman out of Alabama. He's 6'2", 311. He's a guy that can eat up a lot of space inside. Has incredible. He's incredibly defined, muscle tone wise. Benched 400 pounds in high school. He's just just built incredibly well to take up space on the inside. And I mean, the Buccaneers could use a little bit of help on the inside defensively. And so I think he's where, from a team needs standpoint, would be, even though it's a little bit of a reach, a solid pick at 7.
Him with McCoy inside would be really dangerous there for the Bucs. Jacob?
Yeah, this is where my mock draft goes from sounds reasonable to probably won't happen, is because at 7, Saquon Barkley was still on the board in my mock draft, and the Bucs will not pass up on him because they need a running back. And I think it's as ridiculous as it might sound, he could fall all the way to 7 just with the team needs that are above the Bucs. And the Bucs are really that first team that really need a running back, where everyone else needs a lot of other stuff too, so they might go and take some defensive players or quarterbacks, and Saquon, to me, it's probably the number 1 prospect in the entire draft, falls all the way to 7 with the Bucs.
And here's one thing I'll say. If the Giants don't take Saquon Barkley, I think him falling down to 7 is not out of the question by any means.
Kramer?
I'm going to go with Denzel Ward, the corner, and let's address more defense for the Bucs, because that's also one of their low points that they do have. Their offense is there, and I don't think they even need more offense other than possible Barkley if he is in that area. But still, you can always improve on defense.
And with the 8th pick of the 2018 draft, the Chicago Bears take Denzel Ward, cornerback out of Ohio State. So I think he's going to go 1 pick later to the Bears. Need a little bit of help on defense there. And I think he's one of the better players available at this point in the draft. And I think he's going to be a pretty good corner there for Chicago. You need corners to stop Aaron Rodgers in that division. And I think he'll be able to step up to the task there for the Bears.
I like that pick. I do think they need help defensively, but I'm going at the linebacker position, specifically outside linebacker. I'm going Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker from Virginia Tech, I believe. Yeah, 6'5", 253. He's long with a little bit of added weight. He's got the ability to be a really good outside linebacker in the NFL. I think that would be a good position to address for them, so I'm going to go with Edmonds.
I have the Bears taking Denzel Ward as well as Devin did. I think he will address one of the many issues on the defensive end for the Bears that they need to address, and he'll slot in there at cornerback.
Kramer?
I said Quentin Nelson. Imagine him and Trubisky has the one. Yeah, Trubisky. My words today.
Quarterbacks are hard.
Exactly. Yeah, I have Nelson. If he can protect the crap out of Mitch.
I feel like, yeah.
See, that's a good pick for
if he slides the 8, they're going to eat him up there.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And then number 9, let's see who has here. Ryan, what do you have for number 9 for the San Francisco 49ers?
They need protection for Jimmy Garoppolo. I've got him taking Orlando Brown. 6'8", 360 offensive lineman from Oklahoma. He's got surprising speed for someone who's 360 pounds. He's just a massive offensive lineman. He's a left tackle and has the ability with that arm length at 6'8" to keep some of the best pass rushers in the league at a fair distance and make it a lot easier to block them. So I think they're going to see that huge frame from Orlando Brown and see some really good potential protecting Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think the 49ers are going to do something a little bit on the lines of helping Garoppolo, and they're going to go get a wide receiver. I think they're going to take Calvin Ridley at 9, maybe a little bit early, but give Garoppolo an option where with the wide receiver 49ers, they have some decent wide receivers, but they don't really have necessarily that number 1 option. I think they could slide Ridley into that number 1 option and really give Garoppolo someone to look at. And
so you're saying the combination of Pierre Garçon, Aldrick Robinson, Trent Taylor, and Victor Bolden Jr. is not going to do it?
They are a little short on weapons at the moment. I'll give you that.
I think Marquise Goodwin, too, so he's there.
Right.
So it's interesting there with the 49ers, but I could definitely see Calvin Ridley there. How about you, Kramer?
So my 9 and 10 can go either way. Either way for what's going on. But I said for the Niners, get Tremaine Edmonds. Is that how you pronounce his name, I'm guessing? Yeah, the linebacker. So, yeah.
Out of B-Tech, yeah, it's definitely a good pick there. I have them taking outside linebacker Roquan Smith here from Georgia. I think he's the better of the 2 linebackers in the 2 of them, and I think he'd be a really good addition for San Francisco in that defense. They're going to have to replace Reuben Foster because he's an idiot. So now, So up next, the Oakland Raiders at 10, our final pick in this mini mock draft. Let's go to you first, Jacob.
I have the Raiders taking Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's still on the board at number 10. I
don't like that. It's too much talent for Oakland.
Yeah, well, by the time you get to 10, if he's still there as he was in my mock draft, which will not be true.
Maybe. You never know.
I hope it's true. He would slide there, and then with the Oakland Raiders needing pretty much everything in the secondary, that'd be an obvious pick for them at 10.
I think you look at because in my mock draft, Minkah Fitzpatrick isn't on the board anymore. I had the Browns taking him at 4, but I think you get they have the opportunity to get somebody who could be just as good in Derwin James from Florida State. He's a little bit longer than Minkah Fitzpatrick, has the ability to compete with those taller receivers at 6'3", and is a pretty good athlete as well. He's just, I think, would be a good option for the Raiders at 10 with that 6'3" frame from a safety.
Kramer?
I said Roquan Smith because there's two good linebackers, and like I said, they need to address more defense because Khalil Mack can't do it all. Put Mack on one side, and even Roquan Smith on the other side. That'll stop the run, but then again, the secondary's the scary part, and I'd love to see Fitzpatrick be a Raider, to be completely honest. But I said Smith.
And I think I totally forgot about Derwin James. He'd probably be a really good pick for 10, but I'd have him taking Tremaine Edmonds, staying there at number 10. So I have the last two linebackers in the top 10 being Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmonds. So really good picks there for the top 10.
I had Roquan Smith just outside of the top 10. I had the Dolphins taking him at 11.
That's fair.
And I think he has just as much ability as Tremaine Edmonds did. I just think that the Bears might fall in love with that 6'5" frame of Tremaine Edmonds that I think is prototypical of an outside linebacker in the NFL.
And then, of course, another guy I look forward to, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, Mike McGlinchey, number 1 rated tackle according to ESPN.com, 6'8", 309 tackle.
Big fella.
Definitely a big fella that could be interesting in the top 10.
Then I had Rosen at 12.
Rosen at 12, okay.
To the Buffalo Bills.
And one thing I want to mention is just the quarterback draft that's really deep in this class. Running back class, sorry. Saquon Barkley, Sony Michel, Darius Geis, Ronald Jones II, Nick Chubb, Rashard Penny, Bo Scarborough, Royce Freeman, Kerryon Johnson, Wadley from Iowa, Mark Walton from Miami, Josh Adams from Notre Dame, John Kelly from Tennessee, Justin Jackson, the 16th available running back from Northwestern. He's a really good running back.
He better get drafted.
There's so many good running
Phil's
backs.
brother.
Yeah, there's so many good running backs in this draft that's why I wasn't as high on Barkley, just because I thought the depth of talent in this class was really good. Nothing against Barkley. I just thought his contemporaries were good enough that you could get someone decent later.
Well, and that's where I went ahead and did the entire first round just for fun.
Yay!
But I only had one other running back in the first round, Darius Geis, going at 20 to the Lions.
I can see that.
Outside of that, I just didn't see anybody. I think everybody's got bigger needs at that point. And you roll down to the Bills have another pick. The Patriots, they're going to need to pick a quarterback probably because Tom Brady's not going to live forever. He's either going to retire. He's either going to retire or die. Those are the two options at this point. But I think just everybody else on the list has bigger needs than a running back. So all of those running backs you mentioned, all of those really good running backs that have the potential to be really good in the NFL, will probably still be around come the second round. Michelle, Chubb, those guys, And
you talk about last year's draft, Kamara and Hunt were both third-round picks.
Yeah.
Both really good running backs. They were Rookie of the Year and leading rusher in the NFL. So you can find good running backs.
Hunt was hurt by being a mid-major kid. Yep. They don't get as much looks. Although Kamara was he a mid-major? He was a mid-major kid too, wasn't he?
Where did Kamara come from? I totally forgot where Kamara.
I got this.
Tennessee.
Was it Tennessee?
Alvin Kamara, Tennessee. That's what it was.
So it wasn't a mid-major. I mean, essentially it was because Tennessee has been a mid-major team for a while. Because
only Tennessee's coach could hold him down from being an effective college player.
Yeah, right.
No NFL team could, but he definitely could.
So, they had at least were hurt a little bit from being on bad teams.
Yeah, definitely. And the receiver class this year is not good. Besides, you get Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore at the top of the class, Christian Kirk from Texas A&M. Then after that, it's a bunch of whatever kind of pleases you. It's not a deep class of receivers.
And that's why you could see those two wide receivers go a little bit earlier in the draft than
supply and demand
they should, is because there's not a whole lot of wide receivers to go get this year.
Right. Well, and that's where I think I had Ridley and what was the other guy's name?
Moore.
Yeah, Ridley and Moore were the only two that I had going in the first round. I had Moore going to, I believe, the Bills at 22. So
that'd be interesting, yeah. And probably the best D lineman in the draft that's not an outside rusher, but inside guy is Vita Vea from Washington. He's a really high motor guy there at the inside, 6'4", 347. He's going to be a top 15 pick.
347 might be cutting a little off, too. Yeah. I've got him at 13 to the Redskins.
Yeah, he's going to be a top 15 pick. So he's going to be good, along with De'Aaron Payne, who Ryan had in his top 10. So definitely a lot of good players you can get early in this draft. And a lot of these guys like Vita Vea and some of these Minkah Fitzpatrick could drop a little bit in the draft because there's so many quarterbacks available and that are looked at as highly quality quarterbacks in this year's draft, with the top 4, of course, being Darnold, Rosen, Allen, and Mayfield. Then, of course, Lamar Jackson and Mason Rudolph could also maybe get the way into the first round as well. So a lot of things could happen. Watch out for New England on draft day. They have a lot of ammunition. Watch out for Buffalo and Miami as well. The whole AFC East, pretty much, they could all move up in this draft to try to get a quarterback either to beat Tom Brady or to replace Tom Brady into the future in this year's draft. Should be exciting. Next Thursday, I believe, the draft starts at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then rounds 2 and 3 will be next Friday at 6 p.m. And then rounds 4 through 7 will start at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So that's kind of what's going on there.
And Northwest fans be looking at round 7 just in case the possibilities of Marcus Jones getting drafted. Not necessarily likely at this point, but if somebody needs a defensive back at that point, he's going to be one of the best guys on the board come round 7. So it's possible that he could get picked up in the 7th round. So that'd be cool to see another Bearcat get drafted. The last one was it Longacre? Was he the last Bearcat to get drafted?
It might have been, because I know Bevins wasn't. He was a preferred free agent. A lot of these guys have been preferred free agents. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on going forward. He might be a preferred free agent, but even then, you get into a training camp, show your stuff, you can get on an NFL roster.
NFL roster,
There's plenty of guys who have been undrafted free agents and been good football players in the NFL. So definitely possible. Also, if you're an MIAA fan, Nathan Shepard from Fort Hays, 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Possible.
D-lineman.
But it's just going to be cool to hopefully see some more Bearcats on NFL rosters next year with Marcus Jones, and hopefully Simon Mathieson. I think somebody potentially could pick up Mathieson as well. He's still a fantastic kicker. So a rich history of Bearcats in the NFL, I think, continues this year with Jones and Mathieson. And
Nathan Shepard is listed at the 8th best defensive tackle on ESPN.
Spot to be.
So right behind Mo Hurst from Michigan. So pretty good. Go Blue. Pretty good company there for Nathan Shepard out of Fort Hays. We saw him this year.
Man. He
was so good. So we'll see what he can do against moving against NFL linemen instead of D2 linemen. That's going to be a big adjustment. So,
but I think he's got the qualities, the potential, the build to be good.
I mean, 6'4", 315.
Yeah, I mean he can eat up a lot of space. He's got the potential to actually succeed in the NFL, which you don't see a lot from D2 guys. Guys that you think at best could probably become role players in the NFL. He's got the potential to be good in a Brandon Williams-esque sort of position. He came out of Missouri Southern a few years ago. So,
and we're going to take a break. When we come back, talk about baseball and should they shorten the regular season to about 140 games next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KZLX LP Maryville. As we are back on the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Devin Albertson, Kramer Sandstone, Jacob Blair, Ryan Elliott, and now joining us, Jake Wright, coming in on the show. It's been a while since you've been on WSK, Jake, as you're back for baseball.
So you have to get awkwardly close to Kramer.
It's all right. We're going to talk about baseball, but first, the baseball team for Northwest Missouri State is down to Missouri Southern right now, 5-4, bottom of the 3rd inning, 1 out in that one right now. They did beat Joplin, Missouri Southern and Joplin in game 1 and 2, 1 yesterday and 2 earlier today, 4-3 and 4-1.
They beat Joplin too.
Same thing.
Incredibly one-sided.
High school teams really can't compete right now. One like that one story I saw, some high school team in Massachusetts beat another one 82-0.
Woo!
They scheduled the wrong team.
Baseball, right?
Yeah. They scheduled the wrong team. They thought it was the bigger school, and it was the little school. And they're like, we're sorry. They couldn't get it down.
That's rough.
Like they were just gapping the ball to the deep. They were getting to this wall, and they were just taking one base, and they still couldn't get him out. Like they were trying so hard.
That's not the plan. That's not what you want.
Run rule then, or what?
There was no run rule, and the umpires said they had to play 5 innings. They couldn't quit call after 4, so it was brutal. And they're the winning team was like, we felt so bad.
That is the most painful thing I've ever heard.
Kind of like a bench warmers, or it's a I can't remember what baseball movie that is. They just allowed them to win. Yeah, it's bench warmers.
Well, at what point do you just quit? I mean, I hate to say that, but at what point
I
would have quit?
Dude, I would have been like, no. Once you get to 40, I'm like, no, I'm done.
Just
we can't come back from this.
The coach walk over to them and be like, we're This isn't working.
Shoot, once you get to 15, I'm like,
It was 12-0 after the first inning, and then it just got worse from there. The losing team only had 13 players, and after the first inning, like, we're done. Like, this is not fun.
I don't want to play anymore.
So yeah, they
Just in general.
They scheduled the wrong team, like, because they were looking at the roster, like, they won 11-8 last year. They beat a couple of the teams that we compete with, and it's like, oh, wrong team. So that did not go well for the losing team, at least. There's still another game they're going to play against them later this year.
Oh, no.
And they're going to use it as a JV game. They're like, I'm not playing my varsity. It's JV
Playing
only.
the freshman team.
Yeah, so that's not great. 82-0. That's just brutal.
Put the middle schoolers out there.
Another thing that's brutal is 162 games in baseball. And Anthony Rizzo, Cubs first baseman, says he wants the season shortened to about 142 games, and he'll willing to take a pay cut for a shorter regular season. Ryan.
Okay. Now, from a player health standpoint, I think it's not a bad idea. 162 games can get pretty grueling, especially for catchers. Catching 150 games is tough. But in such a statistics-driven sport like baseball, shortening the seasons kind of dampens the chance to break records, dampens the chance. We would have to adjust our perception of what a good season is because they're playing less games. And it's kind of weird to be that way because that's not what it's about. But in baseball, it's so statistics driven that it could be what it's about. And so I think that would make a lot of people really unhappy.
And I think one thing that's going to hold this back from the owners is the money. I mean, taking out 8 games in the regular season, if it's going to 154, taking out 20 games would be 10 home games. That's a lot of money for you to just like, we're just not going to take this money. Like billionaires don't do that.
Unless you're isn't it the White Sox this
they're
year?
Selling 100 tickets a game.
Unless you're the White Sox, they probably wouldn't care.
Yeah, they get a little bit of money out of this game.
I'm not a big fan of reducing the games because once Ryan said this is a statistics-driven game. And I mean, everybody wants to see a record broken, and like even if you have like one of the best like players out there, they can't do much in 140, 150. But yes, I don't like this at all.
From a player standpoint, I think it's probably a good idea. From a fan standpoint, though, I just don't think fans would be happy about it.
Well, and the other thing you have to think about if you're going to shorten the season, are you going to just add more off days? Or are you going to start
literally
later,
shorten the season,
or are you going to start later and end earlier?
I know one thing was cut it to 154, add an extra 8 off days in the regular season, but it's still the same point. You're still getting the same. We are in April and there's snowing in Kansas City. It's like, well, we can't play this game because there's snow on the ground, and we're all wearing ski masks. So this is not great.
Well, okay, so
are we robbing a bank? Hold on a minute.
This past weekend, my parents were supposed to go to the Royals game, and they had more winter weather gear on than when we went to the Chiefs game Christmas Eve.
Nice.
This is April, people.
Well, it's like college baseball. When they start the season, they start it so early. They play all the games in the South.
Yeah.
Because like Iowa, they travel down to Texas, Florida. So like you really couldn't do that for baseball because a bunch of the Southern teams would just have a bunch of home games to start.
And they even do it here in Northwest. We see them go down to Arkansas. We see them go down to Oklahoma early in the season. And you're right. I think that would front load a lot of home games for the Southern teams, and that would make the end of the season really difficult for the Southern teams because then they'd be playing road game after road game after. These games or these teams are going to be on 20-game road trips at the end of the season, and that's not what you want.
If you go back to the player standpoint, teams build their team, of course, to excel in I can't even talk right now. Wow, a certain position. You have your backups to every single position. Give guys more off days if that's what they want. Give them an off day. For Rizzo, I mean, he's obviously their everyday first baseman in Chicago. He doesn't get really much action at first base. I mean, the only thing you do is catch a ball over there. To be honest, hit ball. And that's all you do as first baseman. You should be looking at as the catcher standpoint, and you have a good backup behind your catcher.
And, of course, it's the Cub complaining about the too much playing time. I don't know. It's just always the Cub thing. It's weak.
I mean, the Cubs fans might want that too right now, the way that they've been playing. So, I mean...
Careful. They did win yesterday.
Yeah, they did win yesterday. And they didn't get 12 hits today, only get 2 runs and lose 3-2 at Detroit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Royals fans. So that's kind of what's going on with that right there. And as you guys said there with the December to April thing, I tweeted this out about a week ago. I guess it was Sunday. And the Sunday before the final week of classes in December in Maryville, it was a high of 63 and a low of 25. This past Sunday, it was a high of 34 and a low of 23.
Oh, man.
24, sorry.
Well,
so that's brutal. It's April.
If we're going to talk weather, It was 2 weeks ago. It was 45 degrees in Alaska, 37 degrees in Kansas City, and 33 degrees in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area.
So it was warmer in
That's
Alaska.
exactly the
Yes.
opposite of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's brutal how everything's kind of going right now with the weather, and even like the Blue Jays tweeting out like, "Hey, we got a roof, we can play anytime we want to," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh wait, there's a lot of
Shouldn't
ice, we
have
can't
said
play." So,
Shouldn't have said that. We got a hole in the roof now.
so just a lot of things happening right now in baseball. The Royals have like 3 doubleheaders coming up here soon. They had one today versus the Tigers, so
They
That's
had
6
more
losses.
games postponed than they have won.
That's true.
Hashtag 3-14. So not great there for the Royals. They do have a game at 6:10 tonight in Detroit, who is now 8
And the
and
poor
9 in the year.
I mean, it's just, and it's not even. It's just a bad roster at this point.
Yeah, they're not good this year. It's
No.
fine. But what's good though is Mustakas is playing really well, and their
Trade him.
guys who are tradable are
Trade
playing
him
really well.
immediately.
So it's good for the Royals that way.
And also
Just
Salvi,
trade him now. Don't wait.
And Salvi's on a rehab assignment right now.
Yep.
So that's good for the Royals. That's a plus.
And so is Gordon, but he can't hit. So
We'll
there's
see.
that.
We'll see exactly how healthy Salvador Perez is when he comes back. He's been aging to this point anyway.
No need to rush him.
Right. No need to rush him because that's just the way the catchers are. Is that you don't want to put the catcher in an uncomfortable situation. As good as he is, and as quickly as it seems like he's aging, you don't want. I think they're going to be more careful with him than they would be, say, 2-3 years ago.
And one thing to mention here, the Northwest softball team did just fall to Washburn 5-1. Game 2 is coming up here soon for that softball game to Northwest. Women fall in that one, but still another game to possibly get a game back against Washburn, who's number 1 in the conference right now in the MIAA. Yeah,
Jake, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if he doesn't come back healthy, because he's played a lot of innings as the Royals catcher, a lot of
Yeah, he has.
postseason runs, would you ever consider moving him to first? Like
I think it's a
Twins did
thought.
with Joe Mauer.
I think it's absolutely a thought. I think that's a natural progression from a catcher anyway.
especially with Hosmer gone now.
Yeah, I think the question though is, can you trust the other options at catcher at this point? Because a lot of people talked about or would have talked about if Yadier Molina had fallen off a little bit with the Cardinals, which he obviously hasn't apparently. But if he had, moving him to first, well, the problem is that I'm not going to trust Francisco Pena for 150 games at catcher, And so I think if you can trust the guy you've got behind him, I think absolutely you think about moving him to first. Or, as much as Royals fans would hate this, if he comes back and plays well, do you trade him? I mean, I know Royals fans don't want to. I'm sure the front office doesn't want to either, but it's possible it could get to a point where it's the only option.
And, of course, he can play DH because of the AL, so that's one
Right.
opportunity to get him off his feet a little bit if you
Right.
can.
Yeah, they should at least DH him or move him to first
Well,
base.
that's
catching.
And that's another option is if he could still play a little bit of catcher, but you don't want to put him in for 100 games
maybe
here.
like 60.
Catch him a couple games in a row, give him a couple games in a row off, play him at DH.
I know you don't like doing this, but sometimes have him with a certain pitcher, so he's working with 2 pitchers or so.
Yeah.
He gets some
Yeah.
days off still between.
Catch
So
for
it's gonna work.
2, DH for 3. Catch for 2, DH for 3, that kind of thing. I mean, that's another option.
So he's too good of a player not to have on the field in your lineup hitting. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things you can always look at today. And today their outfield lineup was John Jay in left, Whit Merrifield in right, and then Alamonte in center field. Hope I said that right. But yeah, that was their outfield.
John Jay.
And Goins was their second baseman, Escobar at short, Cuthbert at third, and Duda at first. Gallagher at catcher.
Lucas Duda is the only one of these people I know. Well, I don't see he's Escobar, but
Moose is hitting 338 right now. Duda's hitting 246.
that's no surprise.
That's about it. John Jay's hitting 266. Merrifield at 277. So that's kind of what they're at right now. They're getting plenty of
Can't
hits.
pitch, man.
They got 12 hits today, just only 2 runs. Moose did hit a home run today, so another boost to his worth a little bit here. See if he can't raise his value up before the trade deadline and get some stuff for him. I think he's on an 11-game hitting streak, too, so that's
He is angry.
interesting. Yes, he is.
This is a middle finger to everybody who, well, I mean, he did pass up a 3-year, $35 million deal.
Good job,
But
Forrest. So definitely some interesting
not your own
things
fault,
happening
but
there in baseball. But we're all pretty much against shortening the season, right? Pretty much
I think so, yeah.
unilaterally.
I'm
good word.
Thank you.
Unilaterally.
Every once in a while.
Way to go, man.
It's about time you're using your words right. I'm not right now.
I'm like, geez. But yeah, and also the money just too much for the owners and them to pass up, and even the players. Like, I know he says he take a pay cut, but until free agency comes, like, why am I not getting this money? It's because it's shortened seasons. So
Nobody wants to take a pay cut.
no one actually wants that.
No one-
They
no.
say
No.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
you
don't
say
actually-
that, Anthony Rizzo, dude. You're not taking a pay cut for anything. We know.
The only person that could take a pay cut is probably Tom Brady.
That's
As
true.
Northwest just takes the 6-5 lead over Missouri Southern. Thank you, Ryan.
I
Yep.
thought you were pointing over into
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on over there?
Top of the fourth,
It's a
two
ghost.
outs.
No.
Top of the fourth, 2 outs. Still runners on second and third for Northwest, so maybe they can get a rally going here.
Big
Looks
clutch
like
hit.
Hanslick's up to the plate now for Northwest.
Who
so.
who was that? That
Was it
got that
Hassman?
hit? Yeah, Luke Hassman.
Hassman.
He's
Their lineup's the exact same every single time. It seems like.
yeah.
Yeah, double down the right field line, 2 RBIs. So that's nicely done by Luke Hassman. And let's see what Hanslick can do here next for the Bearcats. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs and everything going on there. We'll start with the Eastern Conference up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KZLX LP Maryville. The Weekend Sports Kickoff is about to start. The opinions on the show are the opinions of the host and guest on WSK alone. These opinions do not represent KZLX, Northwest Missouri State University, or Bearcat Athletics. Enjoy the show. As we are back on the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Ryan Elliott, Jake Wright, and Kramer Sandstone. Jacob left us for the day, but we still love him because he's not Trevor.
Wow.
You think Trevor's listening right now?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I hope he is, because right now, Trevor, shout out to you.
Trevor, we love you, buddy. I know Devin's really mean to you at times, and honestly, all of us are too. But we love you, man.
As we're talking about the NBA playoffs, the Eastern Conference, we'll start there tonight. The 4-5 matchup between Cleveland and Indiana, tied at 1 apiece right now, going to Game 3 back in Indiana. Jake, you and I are both Cavs fans, LeBron supporters. Cleveland has not looked good so far in the series, to say the least.
No, mainly their defense is mainly the problem, but when they put J.R. Smith back in the lineup, it gave him a little juice, and the early start for LeBron really helped.
Yeah, he was dynamic to start the game. He scored the first, 16 points and had the assist for the three-pointer for the first 19. So he was very important for all that in the game on Wednesday night. And just one thing, if you look at that first game the second game where they won by 3 at home, 100-97, LeBron scored 46 points. You had 15 points out of Kevin Love, 12 out of Kyle Korver, and the next highest scorer was George Hill at 6 points.
If it's going to take LeBron playing like that to win by 3 in the playoffs
At home.
this could be rough.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, you can't have...
Now, if they can get the defense to pick up a little bit, play a little bit tighter, then I think they can really take control of this series. But, boy, if it's going to take LeBron playing like that, it's going to be a tough road. Even if they do get through this series, if he's going to have to play like that throughout the whole playoffs, whew.
I mean, if you play him 40 minutes a night, too, that's going to have a little tear on him if you're going to make a run in the playoffs. 'Cause that's a lot of minutes for a guy that's in his 15th year in the league.
Especially if you're going to play, these back and forth games, even with Indiana in the first round, you're going to go, 6 games with Indiana. If you go 5, 6, 7 games with Toronto, you could go 7 games with Philadelphia or Boston or whoever comes out there. Boy, it's going to be tough to make it all the way.
It's not going to be like previous years where they just swept through the playoffs. Because the East is really good this year. It's probably the most parity they've had in a while.
And personally, if Toronto doesn't win the East this year, they're never going to win the East because this is their year. Because right now, the Cavs don't have much of a supporting cast outside of LeBron. Boston, their top 2 players are hurt, and they're still a 2 seed and probably better, next best team. And then after that, you have Philadelphia, who's young, and they're still up and coming. So it's definitely interesting to kind of see what's going to happen here with Toronto. They have a good team this year. I still don't believe in them, but I think they could be a challenging foe going into this year. Here with Toronto has a 2-0 lead on Washington. I do believe they play tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN2 if you want to check that out. Cavs and Indiana play on ESPN at 6, and then at 8:30 you'll have Boston at Milwaukee on ESPN. What's up, Noah?
What's going on?
I just want to, I talk about, we just talked a second ago about, Cleveland, if they're going to have LeBron play like that, if they're going to struggle to get out of the series with Indiana, they're going to be worn down and that could be Toronto's opportunity. That could be their chance that if they get a worn down Cleveland team, if they can take advantage of it, then all of a sudden they're the favorites.
Yeah, Perry and I, we were talking about this yesterday on the show. We pretty much said that, if any year was going to be Toronto's year, it would be this year, because you got a Cleveland team that's pretty worn down. This is probably the worst time we've ever seen Washington all season. Or like in their 5-year stretch that they've had there with John Wall and Bradley Beal. And you got a Philly team who's very good, but also young at the same time, and is also in the first year of probably their soon-to-come dominance. So if this was Toronto, if there was any year Toronto was going to make it to the finals, it would probably be this year.
And they will find a way not to do it because it's Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's one of the things that we talked about in our preview of the playoffs last week. We looked at Philadelphia, and I think the only thing that to me could derail Philadelphia is that inexperience, is that youth that a lot of the teams you look at Miami's not necessarily the youngest team, they're not the oldest, but with D Wade on the floor, with that veteran presence, I think the only thing that could derail Philadelphia is that youth.
Well, I think the one thing I love most about Philadelphia is they shortly after the trade deadline, they added Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova. And those two guys are some proven veterans in the league who have played some playoff games before. And we saw in that 16-game win streak they had to end the regular season that I guess we saw before that, when they didn't have those two guys on the team, that when they went to the bench lineup, that they'd start to fall down. But now if they have those two guys like Ilyasova and Bellinelli come off the bench, now they just increase the lead that the starters already had. So now we've seen that in the playoffs as well. And I really like those two pieces they added. So they're not quite only a young team, but they're also now I guess they got the veteran presence off the bench as well.
Of course, you also have J.J. Redick in your starting lineup. And I like what they have come off the bench. You kind of said there. You have Fultz coming off the bench as a kind of a point guard. T.J. McConnell's decent. Bellinelli at Holmes at center. You also have Amir Johnson coming off now with Embiid back. So they have a lot of depth there. So if they want to, they can do multiple things with their lineup to kind of combat what the other team is putting out there on the floor with them. And of course, with Embiid back, he had a dominating performance there in Game 3 with his time back with the mask and the goggles.
Yeah, that was something to watch in the fourth quarter. He really just went all off. He kind of struggled to start. I think he was 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 to start out that game, and he finished it so strong. And his presence on the floor just makes Philadelphia a whole new team. And you saw in the fourth quarter, he brought what was a close game to start the fourth quarter to, by the end of it, almost looking like a blowout score, scoring 130 points. Like that's pretty impressive to put up that score now twice in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's a dominant guy inside. He's a really good defensive post coming in and help side and blocking shots, as he had 3 blocks. And you also have Simmons, who's also a pretty good defender, had 19 points and 12 assists. He's just so smooth in the floor. I love watching Ben Simmons play. He's not sped up like a lot of rookies are. He takes the game at his pace. He kind of controls the pace. And that's not something you get that comes easy to a player. So seeing his development, he's a really good player. I'm kind of excited to see what he does in the future. But I do worry about them against, say, Boston in the second round, how they would do a challenge with Brad Stevens on the other side coaching and what he could do against some of those matchups with Philadelphia and what they could kind of exploit.
Yeah. I think that year that he had off really benefited because a lot of guys don't have the like a redshirt year coming into the NBA. You're just thrown in there like Donovan Mitchell, but he's proven he's a really good player. So
you're coming straight out of the dorms if you're Donovan Mitchell. You've been living on college. This guy's he's had the experience going through the scout teams and all the processes and everything of being with the team the whole time, getting that chemistry a little bit. It's not the same thing as playing, but it's still more than some other rookies had.
Mm-hmm. And then the other game, the other series kind of in the Eastern Conference, Boston and Milwaukee. Milwaukee in Game 1 was really close to winning that game in overtime, but they couldn't quite pull it out, especially with Giannis fouling out. That game was crazy down the end with Rozier with a step-back 3, then Middleton from nearly half court tying it up. But Milwaukee did not look great in Game 2, even though they shot the ball well. They couldn't quite keep it close with Boston. Milwaukee's kind of been underwhelming for me so far in the first 2 games of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think big Game 3 tonight, and I think you look at Milwaukee's going to have to play better defensively if they want any sort of chance of coming back in this series. Down 2-0 with a huge Game 3 tonight. And if you look at Boston, man, Jaylen Brown has showed out in those first 2 games.
He has.
Without Kyrie, obviously without Gordon Hayward early in the season, you look at this Boston roster and go, okay, what's next? And then Jaylen Brown shows up and becomes now this big budding rising star with Boston.
Will Bledsoe finally figure out who Terry Rozier is? Because right now he's getting torched by him. He hadn't figured it out yet. I mean,
Well, that's for sure. But going back to a little bit about what Ryan said, they won 55 games without Gordon Hayward all season, and with Kyrie Irving only playing 60 games, a little less than 60 games all season. So that's already impressive right there, and that just shows how great of a coach Brad Stevens is.
Definitely.
And Devin, I told you this a couple days ago. I said if Boston has Brad Stevens, then Milwaukee has the anti-Brad Stevens and Joe Prunty, because Brad Stevens, he's essentially worth, I'd say at least 10-plus points a game to his team. Joe Prunty, he's worth negative 10 points a game to his team.
Like the Scott Drew of the NBA.
It's crazy.
Or Tom Thibodeau is, I think, the same way, because
almost.
They have the T-Wolves have no offense.
Mm-hmm. They have no, and they almost have no defense at the same time, which Thibodeau, a guy that's come up with so many great defensive schemes in the past, it seems like that he just can't teach. And we've seen this problem with young teams before, but it seems like he just can't teach this young team to play good enough defense, speaking of them.
Yeah, Jabari Parker definitely took a shot at Coach Prunty the other day. There's been ups and downs. I don't think he's a big fan of him as a head coach. So it's interesting to see how that's going to work itself out.
I wouldn't be a fan if I only played 12 minutes in the second game too. So.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what the Bucks are going to try to do here. They need to win Game 3 or the series is over. And it's always one thing in playoff series like this, best of 7. You have to wait till the home team loses the game before it's really a series, because home court is really important in the NBA. So if the Bucks can win Game 3, they'll definitely get back rolling here a little bit. Maybe can make a series of it. I picked Celtics in 7. I really hope it goes 7 because I want to see Giannis play as much as possible, because I like watching him play. But right now they're just really struggling to stop Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown. It's tough.
If you look at this series on paper, you're thinking the Bucks win it in 5. Maybe they get a sweep out of it. But you got to factor in the coaching and all the lineups that are in play, how the Bucks have a big personnel issue, and then you look at it wow, even without the Celtics' best 2 players, they're still probably the better team if you factor in all the coaching into it.
Yeah, it's not great there for the Bucks going into it. So Toronto, do you think Washington can make a series out? They've lost their first 2 games as well. They've not looked good in those 2 games. Do you think they can win a game or 2 here and make it a series and maybe push Toronto a little bit, or do you think this series is pretty much over?
They just gotta like each other a little more, because I was telling Perry this before the series started. They just all hate each other right now.
Did you see that video of them?
Yeah, it all stems from Bradley Beal and John Wall. The hatred, who's the better player out here, who's the alpha dog, and then Marcin Gortat throughout the entire season, he's been throwing shade at both of those guys. We've seen that now in the playoffs too.
No one's fighting Gortat.
Yeah,
he shaved his mohawk though, so
it'll come back. Don't worry.
It will.
No, they just have issues. I think it's a core issue that this summer that their front office is going to have to look at it and be we've had this played out now for 4 or 5 years with Wall and Beal, and they haven't made it out of the second round yet.
Yeah.
So we need to do something about this. And, honestly, it's looking about the same way in Portland right now. But definitely the issue right now in Washington are those 2 guys, and then just a whole big chemistry issue with the rest of the team.
Do you think they get to a 6th game in that series?
It'll be tough. I think before the series started, Perry and I said Raptors in 5. We said possibly we were thinking 4, but this Washington team is good enough to win that next game, because their issue in the past was always Washington has no bench, their starters are great. Well, this year they actually have a couple bench guys stepping up, and now their starters all hate each other. So it seems like they can never get it right in Washington right now.
You think they go 6 games, Jake?
You got to win a couple at home, and if you don't win games at home, as you were saying before, you're not going to have a chance to win the series.
So I picked before the series. I thought Washington's backcourt, if they got along, could keep up with Toronto's, but Toronto's bench is just too deep. So I said it would go long, but 6 games looks like a pipe dream for right now for Washington.
I don't think it goes 6 either. I think the one thing you are worried about if you're Toronto is that in these first 2 games we've seen playoff Kyle Lowry again.
It's not great. That's not a good playoff Kyle. That's not a good
14 and 11 points in the first 2 games. That's not going to cut it.
The 3-6 matchup, Philly and Miami. How long does the series go before Philly ends it? Or does Miami have a chance to win it?
I said 6 before the series started. I'm going to stick to 6. I feel like, Eric Spoelstra, he's a really great coach. I feel like he still has a couple tricks up his sleeve. We saw in the second game that he pressured Ben Simmons a lot more than other teams did, and I really like that because most every team that they played this season, they gave him 5-6 feet of room. Mm-hmm. For most guys, that'd be a charge that they're drawing if they go to the basket. But in Ben Simmons' case, he was crafty enough to be able to work around that 5-6 feet of room, get enough steam in there and go to the basket, make a nice move in there. But Ben Simmons, he's a smart guy. He figured out how to work around that in Game 3. But I feel like Spoelstra, he's still got a couple tricks up his sleeve, and he might be able to work that out. So I'm still going 6.
And I think this is the one thing we talked about way earlier in the year about Ben Simmons is his ability to kind of contort his body to get the right shot at the basket.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be able to use that, as you mentioned, against that. But I like 6 as well. I think Miami gets one more, and then Philadelphia just shuts it down at that point. I think they're just too talented to.
Well, especially with Embiid back, it's a whole new team with him back.
I think the Sixers are going to win the games, but one thing is that nobody's really been talking about is Dion Waiters not being healthy.
Yeah,
he's one of their best scorers
because
when you don't have like a dominant shooter that they have Dragic, but he's not hit a bunch of threes for you, and like Josh Richardson's an okay shooter. He's just really athletic, and Tyler Johnson is an okay shooter.
Yeah, like Miami, they've got like 6-7 guys that are averaging more than 10 points a game, and anyone can really get it done for them on a given night. But it's just that a couple people have to really be clicking for them to get it done. And we saw last night in the fourth quarter, when you don't have anything going, and Philly's all hot, Joel Embiid's going off making every shot he takes, then it's going to be tough to win that game.
And right now they're not getting much production out of Hassan Whiteside either, and he's getting tortured. Right, he only played 13 minutes in their game.
This is Roy Hibbert alert out here, because it seems like Hassan Whiteside's declining in the playoffs a lot.
He had 5 points and 2 rebounds in 13 minutes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So bad you can't even say his name right.
I know, yeah, it's coming out.
Took one shot. I'm guessing it was a dunk, just because it's Whiteside.
Probably.
But yeah, that's all they had. Justice Winslow off the bench did have 19 and 10 in their loss to Philly, so he's kind of a guy that likes to get under people's skin a little bit there, and he likes to be a little bit of a passed a bit there in that series. And now finally the last one, the 4-5 matchup, Cleveland, Indiana. Game 3 is tonight on ESPN at 6 o'clock. What do you think? Who does Cleveland end up pulling the series out, or is Indiana just too deep for him besides LeBron?
You got to think Cleveland's going to win the series. I knew the series would be tough for them. I didn't expect Indiana to win that first game so handily like they did. But Indiana comes at you in a lot of waves, and in that second game, you thought Cleveland was going to run away with it for a while, and then all of a sudden you saw Indiana come back, slowly get back into that game, make it a close game, and I expect that throughout most of the rest of the series, but I still think Cleveland's got to win it in 5 or 6 right now.
I would say Cleveland as well, and I think that Kevin Love hasn't really been gotten going, and he always has a game where he scores like 30 points. He starts off the game hitting like 5 or 6 shots because LeBron always tries to get him involved early. So I think Kevin Love is going to have to step up. I think he's going to have a big game in one of the final games, and I think the Cavs will pull it out.
And there was a scary thing with Love there with his hand when he got jammed by the ball. That looked kind of scary there. It's the same hand that he broke earlier this season, just not coming back from it. So hopefully that he's going to be okay for Game 3. I think he's going to play. Hopefully that hand's okay. And just getting him started a bit, because LeBron, as much as fun as it is to watch him just go off early in the game, the Cavs are better when he's trying to facilitate and scores whenever he wants to, instead of having to score every time down the floor because no one else is doing anything.
I don't know, Devin. I like that 16-1 start when LeBron scored every single one of those points.
I love it too, but I think the Cavs are better in the long term over a long game, because he can't do that every possession.
You can't keep that up throughout the whole game.
They tried to do that in the first game, but nobody was hitting anything. So you don't want to get behind.
He's got to find the happy medium there.
I didn't get to watch the first quarter of the first game, and I started watching the second quarter, pulled up my phone to look at the box score, and I was like, hold up, LeBron hasn't taken a shot yet? Like, what's going on here? It's the first game of the playoffs. So I really liked the aggressiveness he came out in Game 2 to start it out on that 16-1 run, because that really set the tone for the rest of the game. But you can't rely on LeBron doing that every single game at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely one thing to look forward to, and not sure how effective J.R. Smith's going to be tonight. This is his favorite time of the year, so I'm not sure how effective he'll be. But we can always hope that he's
Tyronn Lue, he might have told him, like, J.R., just wait till after the game's over, all right? You can do whatever you want, but
you can fly high afterwards, right?
Before the game, just keep it mellow right now.
I enjoy J.R. Smith. He's entertaining. He did play really good defense there against Oladipo in Game 2, and it was a big factor in them winning. Oladipo did get a couple early fouls in that game. I picked it before the series started, Cavs in 5. I think it goes 6 now. I think Indiana picks up one of these two games. I think it was 2-2 going back to game 5, and the Cavs
a scary
winning.
place to play.
Yep, and the Cavs win games 5 and 6 to take the series. But I think it's gonna be a hard-fought 6 games. Indiana is very deep and talented. They only played one primetime game all year long, and the Cavs played like 38. So we hadn't seen a whole lot of Indiana. But now you see Oladipo and crazy Lance Stevenson kind of doing their thing. And Lance Stevenson's always kind of an interesting character to watch, to say the least, there on the floor. And everything that he does.
It's like the most one-sided rivalry of all time when you have LeBron on one side and Lance Stevenson on the other side, who thinks he can get into LeBron's head, but it doesn't actually work out that way, and he's still trying, like, to this day. I think he's been trying since 2011. Hasn't really worked out that well, so I don't know what's going on there. But
Headbutting.
Yeah.
Headbutting
blowing his ear.
Blowing in his ear. He's, like, sleeping on the floor in the 2012 conference finals, so I don't know what's up with Lance.
He's crazy, and once he gets out of control, he's really. They need to take him off the floor, but when he's under control, he's a good basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely gets the bucket and is a bucket getter for that second unit for Indiana. So he's definitely got to watch in this game.
He loves playing on Indiana too. I remember he quit on the Hornets when he got traded to them. You know, Michael Jordan gave him a whole bunch of money. He just quit on him. But back in Indiana, he's actually a pretty productive guy.
Yeah, you have Oladipo, who is a guy who went to Indiana University. So a couple guys that fit their system really well. And you have others on that bench who are just good for their system there in Indiana. So it's definitely fun to watch. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll go to the wild, wild west of the Western Conference of the NBA next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KZLX LP Maryville. As we are back on the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Devin Albertson, Ryan Elliott, Jake Wright, and Noah Cooper here.
I expected more from you, Devin. 3 times with Enter Sandman. Come on.
Yes. Why not?
I thought you were going to have a different one for every break.
I didn't have
I
time.
was excited.
I didn't have enough time. Sorry.
And you have disappointed me, sir.
I had disappointed you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's fine.
But it's still the NBA playoffs. No Western Conference games tonight, but there will be 3 of them tomorrow. We'll have Portland at New Orleans, Houston at Minnesota, and Oklahoma City at Utah. The Portland-New Orleans game will be on TNT at 4 o'clock. The other 2 games will be on ESPN at 6:30 and 9 o'clock. That's what we have coming up. But right now, the games right now, Houston up 2-0 on Minnesota. Oklahoma City and Utah tied at 1. New Orleans and Golden State both up 3-0 in their series over Portland and San Antonio. I said Blazers in 6, so I'm going to stop talking now.
What did I tell you about them Pelicans? I told you that this was the upset pick in the Western Conference.
Anthony Davis, man.
You didn't believe me.
That was easily the upset pick right there. Even though I think on Dropping Dimes, Perry and I think Perry had Blazers in 6. I said Blazers in 7. But I did say, and I've been saying this for 2 weeks now, this is the worst possible matchup for the Blazers in the first round out of any of those teams below them, because in this series the Blazers do not have the best player on the court, and the Pelicans also have 2 guys that can at least contain or stop Lillard and McCollum most of the time, and we've seen both of those things that I said, before the series started hold out to be true.
Prophet.
Yeah, I didn't expect Drew Holiday to play as well as he had. As he had.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone did, but
yeah,
we
and
knew
playoff Rondo.
Yeah, you can always expect playoff Rondo, but Drew Holiday, he's been a guy that's been super solid on defense all year, and before the playoffs started, a lot of people were picking him second team All NBA defense, so you knew that he was a guy that's going to come in really great on defense, and Rondo can always play great in the playoffs, and I think we've seen the greatest version of all 3 of those players, and then the greatest version of Mirotic too, because I'm a pretty big Bulls fan. I watch most Bulls games, and Mirotic is such a streaky guy, and they've gotten some of the best 3 Nikola Mirotic games I've ever seen out of him in the playoffs.
And whenever Rondo's hitting corner threes to seal games in the playoffs, it's playoff time because playoff Rondo's back and he can finally hit 3s again. So it's once he does that, you're like, well, not our year for this one.
The Bulls were making it to the Eastern Conference Finals before Rondo got hurt last year. That's all I got to say. All right.
They were up 2-0 and they were hot.
That's what I'm saying.
Anyways, Jake.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I thought Lillard was going to have a big series because he's the last couple years in the playoffs, they really haven't had a lot of guys to play with, and they bring in Nurkic this year, who's a solid center.
Yep.
And he's kind of like Kyle Lowry, just not showing up, and guards win, but not when you have Anthony Davis to go up against.
Yeah, no, that's tough. That is tough with Anthony Davis, and I won't make my prediction yet. We'll wait until we get through and
Yeah, Lillard
Actually, I'll go to
had
that.
20 points, but took him 14 shots to it. 3 of 9 in the last game, the loss on the road to New Orleans by 17. He had 20. McCollum had 22. They combined for 42. They got combined for at least over 50 to 60 points for them to have a chance to beat New Orleans at this point. Because right now, Anthony Davis had 28 and 11. Mirotic had 30 and 8. It's too much there for the Blazers to deal with in that game. I mean, New Orleans, I did not expect them to win this series, but man, Anthony Davis has been so good and just unstoppable on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I expected Portland to come out with more intensity after losing their first 2 at home last game. And the New Orleans, they really set a tone, scoring 36 in the first quarter.
Yep.
Being up 36-20. That's so impressive right there to come out with that at home against a team that's on the ropes. And you knew from after the first quarter was over, you're like, this isn't a game anymore. The Blazers, what do they have left right now? If they don't have Lillard and McCollum going, they really have no other guy on their team that's stepping up right now.
Yeah, the next highest scorer for those two, Amino had 21, but after that, the next highest scorer was Myers Leonard with 8.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
No.
Mirotic is usually Nurkic's usually pretty good, but he only had 5 points and 7 rebounds in that game. He got totally outplayed by the bigs of New Orleans, and just that discrepancy in talent in the post just rearing its ugly head right now for the Trailblazers. In this series, 3-0, and was it 127-0 for a team up 3-0 in a series?
Yeah, they've never lost.
Yeah.
So
Never lost.
Even if the Blazers win this next game or even the game after that, I would still expect the Pelicans to win the series because they got 4 games. They're probably going to win one of them.
I'm saying the series is over come 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised after what we saw from last night. The Blazers came out with no aggressiveness. They came out with no will to win the game, and I don't see where they could just muster up with that out of nowhere. And
I think Pelicans are moving on by the time 8 o'clock rolls around tomorrow night.
Do the Spurs get a game out of Golden State?
Nope.
No way.
Both of these series are over by the time finals week starts on Monday.
Unless KD gets hurt.
Both of these series were over, a week and a half ago, or a week ago. Yeah,
that's fair. Both of these series are officially over by the time finals week starts on Monday.
So that's what's going on for the half of the Western Conference. The other half, Houston and Minnesota, 2-0 series lead right now for Houston. They'll play tomorrow night at 6:30. So, Karl Anthony Towns, is he in the playoffs right now, or is he sitting at home?
He's just chilling. After this first game of this series, with Towns not playing very well, having to force James Harden to play out of his mind just to win by 3, I thought Minnesota might be able to make this interesting if they can show up, and then they just laid an egg in game 2. So I'm a little less confident now.
I think I've provided almost as much production as Karl Anthony Towns has in this series. I'm gonna be honest right now.
And Noah's 0 for 3 from the field.
Come on, with 13 points in 2 games, you got to expect at least more from that out of him. He's a guy that should be getting 18 plus shots every single night. And
2 of 9.
Yeah, 2 of 9.
And he's a guy that I think everybody in the NBA is looking to be one of the stars in this league moving forward. And you can't score 13 points in 2 playoff games and do that.
You got Nene on you. You might as well have Devin guarding you if you have Nene on you. I don't get why he can't just turn around and put a little baby hook over Nene's head. That's barbecue chicken.
Don't be aware that Devin's 6'4".
Hey, don't be dissing Nene like that, all right? He's on Hilario Nene, baby. But yeah, Capella and Nene are outplaying him right now, and that's just not good. Capella had 8 points, but 16 rebounds compared to 5 and 10 for Cat.
Well, he had 20 at half in the first game too.
Yeah, and the other player for the Minnesota has been underperforming is Jimmy Butler. Only took 6 shots.
Well, he's been playing with injury too, which I didn't know about until after the first game was over. The reports kind of came out and said, he has a little bit of an injury and he's going to be working through that. So, when your best player has an injury, and when your second best player / best player, I guess if you want to call him, and Karl Anthony Towns isn't performing well, playing pretty soft all series, it's going to be really tough when you have no bench.
I understand that, but Jimmy Butler's taking the 8th most shots on the team in the final game they had. That's just you cannot have Derrick Rose, Jordan Crawford, Gorgie Dang,
D Rose.
All those guys taking more shots than Jimmy Butler. D Rose, yeah, let's go.
Jelly knees.
As I was telling Devin yesterday, the Rockets defense, they switch everything.
Yes,
so most of the time you have smaller guys in the paint against talents, but they just never give them the ball. Yeah. And having D Rose shoot threes, And
Here's what
Crawford's
you're
gonna
talking about
shoot
Thibodeau
three,
again.
so.
I don't want
Poorly
any.
coached.
I don't want any D Rose slander on this show. I'm the biggest D Rose.
Jelly knees.
No D Rose slander on.
He's
on
not
this
what he
show.
used
That's
to
not
be.
slander. That's just truth.
It is. It is.
Thinking about 10 too many shots a game.
He was a
I'm kidding.
fantastic
Probably.
basketball player when he was healthy.
He was like the second leading scorer in the first game for the Wolves, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like when he's the second leading scorer, I at least want someone else taking
This
more
isn't
shots.
2010.
Right
He'd
Yeah,
now.
take somebody else's leg.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute.
It's like I'm fine with Derrick Rose, scoring 16 points, but I want other guys on the team, scoring over 20 at that point. I don't want D Rose being in
If
contention.
Derrick
for
Rose
having the
scores
most on the
16
team.
points, 10 of them should have come in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In a 20-point lead.
Yeah, Wiggins had 13 points on 14 shots. I mean, it just wasn't a good offensive performance there for Minnesota in that ball game.
But Wiggins,
poor.
he's almost playing the best for them in this series. Which,
Someone's got to shoot.
yeah, which like before the series started, I wouldn't have predicted that because he's struggled so much this year in terms of shooting from the floor, from three, from the free throw line, pretty much from everywhere. But in the playoffs, honestly, he hasn't looked too bad. So, at least there's one bright spot for Minnesota. But this is another series that it was over a week ago. It's going to be over here in a couple days. I expect the Rockets to win it in 4.
I mean, whenever you hold James Harden to 12 points and 2 of 18 shooting, you still lose by 20. It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
No.
And it's like all time teams that have won 65 games or more. In the first round, they have swept their opponents like 20 out of 21 times or 21 out of 22. So most every time it's a sweep when they've won over 65 games. So I'd project that to happen.
But hey,
again.
good on Minnesota for making the playoffs.
Yeah, at least they did
Time
something
since
right.
KG was an MVP.
At least they did something right.
Something would have been worse. I think it would have been worse if Denver would have made it, and they would have had even less resistance to Houston, which is surprising. Because you should have thought Minnesota, they have 3 really talented guys, a decent bench. Maybe they can make a game of
Well, that's
something.
what I'm saying.
They made one game.
In
They
game
made
one,
Game one, they
I
tried.
thought this series could be interesting, and then just nothing at all.
You know what they need to do? They need to play Cole Aldridge. That's the difference here.
Well, honestly,
Got to get my former Jayhawks on the floor.
Honestly, like Houston really hasn't even looked that great the first 2 games. Like the first game, everyone on their team but Harden and Capella was doing pretty bad. The second game, your best player's doing pretty bad. Other people are stepping up.
Chris Paul,
Gerald
by
Green
17
stepping
more
up.
points.
Yeah, like
I love Green's haircut, by the way.
no, it's he comes out with a new style every like last year he had
Dennis Rodman.
he had the clover in his hair when he was on Boston. I love that. So
the old Dennis
I
Rodman.
love that guy. Perry calls him one of the most ghetto guys in the league, and honestly,
Perry does.
honestly, the hair that he comes out with every night, he projects that every night. So, but I love Gerald Green, 22 points in the last game. Pretty impressive right there. I was just impressed with the other guys on the Rockets after they struggled in the first game to step up in the second game when their leader goes 2 for 18.
Yeah, when the Rockets shoot 30% from 3 and Harden only has 12 points, you have to win that game, and you lose by 20. So not a great thing there from
They
Minnesota.
won the first quarter, if that counts for anything.
There we go. And then got outscored by 20 in the second quarter. So not great there for Minnesota. And then finally, the best series in the West right now is the 4-5 matchup. Oklahoma City versus Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, tied at 1 right now. Going to Game 3, back to Utah. And that Game 2, Donovan Mitchell was pretty good in that game down the stretch. Oklahoma City's big 3 was not good, 0 for 14 in the fourth quarter. Good job, Westbrook. Anyways, what do you think of the series so far with Utah and the Thunder?
Well, I snapped Perry in the fourth quarter of the last game, and I was like, I'm going to be real with you. Melo is the worst player on the court right now for both teams, and I'm like, that's just not a good sign for Oklahoma City.
Corey Brewer's on the floor.
Yeah, no, but I said this before the season started. Before the series started, excuse me. But Utah has probably a better team than Oklahoma City has, but Oklahoma City has the best 2 players on the court. And I tend to rely on superstars more in the playoffs,
Yep.
and I liked Oklahoma City to win it in a long series, 6 or 7 games. But if Utah wins it, I definitely wouldn't be surprised because, like you said, in the fourth quarter when their top 3 guys are going 0 for 14, that opens the door for Utah. And Donovan Mitchell, he went off for 13 in the last quarter, and I really loved his aggressiveness.
Yep.
He was going to the rim, he was shooting threes. Where Oklahoma City, on the other hand, they were Westbrook, for example, he was attempting a lot of long 2s at the end of that game. Melo was attempting like 3-pointers 3 feet behind the line.
A lot of
I was
isolation.
I was like, it isn't 2008, Carmelo. Like, please stop. You can't do this. Just get on the baseline. Get out of the way
Stop
right
it.
now.
I know
You don't play for the Nuggets anymore.
Yeah, like, quit, please. Like,
This morning for Friday Take, my co-host Luke was like, yeah, they had those final shots or whatever, like they passed the ball combined like 5 times, and a lot of them were just like, they go around Westbrook, he hands the ball back to him, they'd shoot a deep 3. Like, it wasn't good offense. It was all isolation stuff where they try to force things. It's not how you beat Utah's defense. It's not how you play basketball at an elite level in the fourth quarter.
So if the the Thunder lose this series in 5 or 6 games with Russell Westbrook, one of the best players in the NBA, Paul George, Melo, who's a Hall of Famer, and Steven Adams, who's the best rebounder in the game. What does that mean for, like, Paul George is probably gone, right?
Oh, he gone.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for, like, Russell Westbrook? Because all these players, you have all these great players, right? KD, Harden, they're gone.
Oladipo.
And then Oladipo, look what he's become in Indiana.
Sabonis.
And now, like, Russell Westbrook's probably not going to win a title because he's never going to get people to come play with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this was the year that they were supposed to make a run.
You're preaching to the choir, man.
Yeah.
No, I think you look at I kind of am on the same wavelength as Noah here in that I still kind of expect Oklahoma City to pull this out, maybe in 6 or 7, but solely because I just don't think Melo, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook are going to shoot that bad in the fourth quarter all the time. And I think that's what it's going to take for Utah to win this series is, like, come game 6 or 7, they're going to have that big three shoot terrible in the fourth quarter. I just don't think it's going to happen. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Utah ends up winning this series. I just think that big three from Oklahoma City are too good to shoot like that consistently through the rest of the series.
I kept saying, like, please just attack more, and they kept throwing it over to Melo, who kept taking horrible shots. I'm like, don't give it to Melo anymore. Like, take him off of the court right now.
You ain't getting the ball back.
Yeah, I like it when he plays with the second unit on the team. I think he's a pretty good veteran presence out there, especially in the playoffs to those younger guys on the Thunder. And I just wish they'd stick with that, and otherwise just and run some other guys in the fourth.
He's still got a shot if he can get in rhythm. There was just no rhythm there at all.
And how soon in the fourth quarter do you put Paul George on Donovan Mitchell to kind of limit him on offense? Because the Jazz don't have a whole lot of guys who can create their own shot besides Mitchell and Rubio. If he dribbles in, then kicks out to somebody to shoot. But other than that, they don't have a lot of guys who can just create their own shot off the dribble. So how much in the fourth quarter do you have Paul George on him to try to limit him offensively?
If I'm Oklahoma City, I'm trying as hard as possible to have someone face guard him the entire game and really limit his opportunities to get the ball in the first place, unless he's bringing it up the court. Because Westbrook was playing on Ricky Rubio for a while, and Rubio was 5 of 7 from 3 in that game. So Ricky Rubio hitting 5 threes, that's probably not something that's going to happen all the time. But Russell Westbrook still has to play more up on him to where he limits his opportunities to do that.
He has allowed the most uncontested shots out of any superstar in the league this past year.
Yeah, so. and that's something you don't want out of your superstar. You
get those rebounds though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if like 4 people are blocking out for him, and he blocks
defense.
out Carmelo. Don't
worry, I'm a hater, so it's fine.
Another thing is, if you're asking Paul George, if you wanted to face guard Donovan Mitchell the whole game, that's not going to happen because he's the second option on offense. Yeah, having Cephalosha, if they had Cephalosha, he could be a guy that could guard him the whole game.
Or Roberson, if he was healthy.
Or Roberson, that's what I was thinking. Sorry.
It's like after Roberson went out, I think a lot of I think the front office on Oklahoma City expected Paul George to step up and play a little bit of that Roberson role on defense. And for a while there, he was almost a contender for the Defensive Player of the Year with the amount of steals he was getting per game. And now we've seen after Roberson went out, his numbers on defense have went down a lot. He's allowed a lot more points a game on defense. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, I don't even know if I'd put him on Donovan Mitchell at this point. I'd say, I try to put the fastest guy on Donovan Mitchell, just throw Westbrook on him and say, you got to try super hard on defense to defend this guy because you can't allow him to get 13 points in the fourth again.
Yeah, and it wasn't an efficient game by Mitchell by any means. 28 points on 25 shots is not great. 10 of 25 from the field, but he needs to shoot that many shots.
Yeah,
he needs to be
he's been doing that all year.
He's going to be the driving force of their offense because, I like Joe Ingles, but he's not a guy who's going to create his own shot a lot of the times. I like Rudy Gobert, but he's not an offensive force. Derek Favors is okay, but he's not a guy you're going to rely on all the time, so he's got to create a lot of offense for Utah. I picked OKC to win in 7 before the series started. I'm going to stick with it, but I'm not very confident in it. I just think over the series they'll find a way to limit Mitchell enough to win enough games to win the series because of that 4th win. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ryan? I've skipped you in the Eastern Conference segment. Do you think who wins this series?
I said OKC in 7.
Okay. Jake?
I'll say OKC.
So we all taking OKC.
I think we're all taking them in 7, but I don't know if
the confidence level.
I think we're all taking them in 7 because we just think if we get to that game 7, it's going to be coin toss. Mm-hmm. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no confidence in that game 7 pick.
It's like a 51% confidence.
Yeah, right?
Like Utah's probably going to get it. We don't even know, but.
So right now we all think Houston, New Orleans, and Golden State in the Western Conference, and Oklahoma City with very little confidence getting second round. And I don't see OKC taking Houston any more than 5-6 games.
No.
Sorry, Skip Bayless, but they're not going to the finals to play Philadelphia.
I think one thing about Oklahoma City, they do at times play up to their competition
That's
a
fair.
little more. So I think they could get a couple games out of Houston, especially if like Houston in that game 1 against the Wolves. I think if that's the Thunder, I think the Thunder are closing that game out once they have a lead in the fourth quarter. But I just don't know if that'll happen. So it'll be interesting to see there. But I'd probably say if that series does happen, it'll probably be 5-6 games. Houston's still getting out of there.
I just don't trust Westbrook late in games.
Yeah.
That's me personally. I just trust James Harden and Chris Paul more than I do him to close that game. Him and Carmelo.
It's like I think I said the words like "Oh God" while watching this Reddit stream of Russell Westbrook firing up like 19.5-foot jump shots, a foot inside the 3-point line. I was like, dude, why? Like, what are you doing this for? Do a pick and roll with Steven Adams that was working in the entire third quarter to
Get
take
Steven
that
Adams
lead.
involved in the game.
Oh yeah, like that pick and roll is so deadly. They're one of the best 2 pick and roll combos in the NBA right now. And I think for 3 or 4 possessions there at the end of the third, they were just unstoppable. They went on that 21-7 run, and a lot of that was just pretty much off Russell Westbrook and Steven Adams pick and rolls the entire time, and it was really working out. And then they just kind of went away from doing that.
I wish they got Adams the ball more in situations like that. And Westbrook on that pick and roll is so deadly because you have to help off to help in the lane, and then you have Paul George and Corey Brewer and guys like that on the outside who can hit threes.
And he is a patient player, too,
Yes.
on that pick and roll. Like, one of my favorite plays from the first game, I saw someone tweet where he just waited so long to get the ball to Adams for a perfect alley-oop there after Westbrook got double-teamed off the pick and roll. So that was really nice. But, I just wish they'd go to that more instead of trying to play hero ball in the fourth.
Hero ball always works, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we have going into the playoffs. Here, we're going to take a break. When we come back, what are we going to watch this weekend coming up next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KZLX LP Maryville. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. Noah, Jake, Ryan, and myself, Devin, here on the show. Hey, Kramer, how's it going over there? As it's 6-6 for the men's, for the baseball team at Northwest Missouri State with Missouri Southern. Top of the 8th, 1 out for the Bearcats. So that's what we're keeping an eye on that as we go into our final segment of the day and one of our final segments of the year. We'll have a show next week. We'll see who's going to be on the show, but we're going to be on air.
I'll be there.
Yay, well, Brian.
Maybe. If you're lucky.
It's a maybe.
How much are you paying me?
You're going to be GM next year. It's your payments. By the way, congratulations, general manager next year for KZLX.
Thank you.
I'll be gone. But good luck.
I mean, what?
You'll have to deal with Trevor.
Just kidding.
So there's that. Good luck there.
Thanks.
And also
I'm gonna
Kramer.
need it.
Noah and Perry, they're fine, though.
Yeah.
They're perfect little children.
We'll hold it down.
We'll hold it down, yeah. Dropping Dimes will be back in the fall.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty of stuff to talk about.
Oh,
So Dropping Dimes had their last show of the year. Show this semester last Thursday. Sad times, but always good content there.
Well, we are still deciding right now whether we want to have one next week. So
I think we should.
We'll see if we're if we're here, we're gonna have it. If we're not here, we're not. So we'll see.
Make sure you guys follow droppin_dimes1 for that info.
We're
Do
tweeting all the time. Most
Do
of the
it.
tweets are sent out by Perry.
I can
Good.
tell.
You know what?
Yeah, I sent my first one out on the I sent my first quote tweet out a couple days ago, and I was like, Perry, how you like this? Do you think it sounds good? He's like, it's all right. He was giving me pointers on how to tweet correctly, so but it's been looking pretty good.
Perry's
Some good
fantastic.
polls over there. Some good Twitter
yeah.
polls over there that I always feel like I have to answer even though I don't know anything about. Well, I won't say I don't know anything.
And
but
I think if we do have the show next week, we're talking about maybe doing a little bit of besides just a little bit of the playoff talk. We're thinking we're going to do like an end of the year awards ceremony. We're going to come up with awards.
that's going to be
We got to get some
great.
good names for the awards.
That's gonna be
Nominate some
great.
players
Between you and Perry, man, that's going to be good.
yeah. So stay tuned if we have the show.
I definitely enjoy when the NBA playoffs are on. I'm just kind of watching highlights through Twitter and stuff, and it's like, oh, there's Dropping Dimes.
Yeah.
That's definitely Perry. Enjoy Perry there on Twitter. We'll go to you first, Ryan. What are you going to be watching this weekend in sports and otherwise?
Well, I'm going to have to take a look at the NBA playoffs. I'm going to watch Houston, Minnesota on Saturday or tomorrow, and watch the games this evening. Going to have to watch Milwaukee, Boston. Going to see Giannis play a little bit. I always like to watch him play ball. Watching a little bit of the Valero Texas Open this week at the Oaks course in San Antonio. Not really anybody interesting. It's just the Oaks course is just such a beautiful course. It's always fun to watch the Valero Open. Zach Johnson in the lead at the moment at 9 under. So got to watch a little bit of golf. Always gotta sit in my house and watch golf and really wish I was out at the golf course. So that's what I've got this weekend.
Jake?
Definitely Cavs games, and all the other NBA games. Also be watching the Notre Dame spring game tomorrow. Football's starting back up again, and
They gonna win or lose?
When
They're going to lose. No,
Are you getting ready for
blown out.
You getting ready for the 2028-2029 series versus Alabama?
Oh yeah,
ridiculous.
I'm trying to go to that too. I want to go.
But they
I saw
scheduled it
that.
out
I'm
a
like, yeah,
decade
what?
in
Well, what's
advance.
going
That's
on?
insane.
I'm thinking like maybe they're scheduling it now like that then, so maybe Saban's not there anymore. But
What if, like...
And the current 5th grade class is pretty weak right now. From
Yeah,
what I hear.
well, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
He's already gone out and recruiting them for that game.
Yeah,
Gotta
right.
be Notre Dame this
Right.
season.
It's like we're going north for once.
Put your juice down. We got to play ball.
We got an actual schedule for once here.
As Northwest leads 7-6 now. Looks like Rycraft with a single up the middle, scoring Aaron Barrett. Give the Northwest a 7-6 lead in the top of the 8th. 2 outs with a runner on first base for the Bearcats. Thank you, Kramer, for the update. Anything else, Jake? Just
That's about
spring
it.
game and basketball.
maybe some golf, as
There you go.
Ryan said. Yeah.
Go golf. Noah?
I love playing golf, not as much watching golf. I did watch a lot of the Masters last week. So, Ryan, how'd you think about the Masters?
You know, I
Here we
was
go.
pulling for Ricky Fowler. I'd love to see him get his first
I think
major this
we
year.
all were probably.
And I still think it's going to happen. I think the next 3 courses set up really well for him in these majors. So
Well, hasn't he gotten second at every major now?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. But
he's gotta win it sometime.
other than the U.S. Open sets up for the long hitters, but like it always does. But I think the course is set up well for him the rest of the year. But it was cool to see Patrick Reed win for about 2 days, and then I heard about some of the things that. He's just kind of a jerk.
Yeah, like the estranged family.
I don't
and
mean to be mean, but just to be straight, he's just kind of a jerk. So yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. But I did watch quite a bit of the Masters, so that's kind of rare for me. But we might be seeing me watch more golf in the future.
There it is.
But I'm going to be watching basketball all weekend, so it's all about the NBA this time of the year. So
Respect.
be taking naps and watching the NBA.
There you go.
that's
Kramer.
not a bad plan.
You slide the mic over to Kramer real quick so he can give his opinion here. Hi, Kramer. Back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Honestly, watching this week, probably watch a lot of replays of wrestling. I mean, that's what I do anyways. So, yeah, and don't forget to tune in to Good Old Wrestling, 4 to 6 on Sunday. And you'll be listening to us also during the summer. So,
What are you guys talking about this Sunday?
this Sunday, we're going to get into a little bit of the Superstar shakeup, of what happened between like both brands and everything like that. Some indies and some New Japan stuff. So, yeah. That's what we're going to be doing. 4 to 6 on
Unbelievably
Sunday.
confused right now.
A lot of fun stuff in Go Wrestling coming up this
No
Sunday. I have no idea either what's going on. but
Like
it
I
sounds-
thought I was confused during the NASCAR segment last week. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay, tune in Sunday and you'll find out with that one.
Sure.
Also, I apologize
that.
to both Jacob and Trevor last week for not recording the NASCAR segment on the radios.
Next time we'll record it next year. We'll probably have a NASCAR segment per show. So
Because Trevor will demand it. And they're
Right.
going to have a NASCAR show
he
anyways.
has control. So
They're going to have a NASCAR show starting in the fall with him and Jacob anyway, so that's going to be fun to tune in for.
yeah.
Also, I'll be watching the NBA games, of course. Tonight, you got the Eastern Conference pretty much in action with Cleveland, Indiana, Toronto, Washington, and Boston, Milwaukee. I'll be tuning into those 3 games because I got nothing better to do. Saturday, of course, all 4 games, and then 4 more games on Sunday. I'm going to be enjoying that. And then I guess I could stay for a few finals that are on Monday and Wednesday, but we'll see what happens. I'm ready for last week of school. Definitely a struggle. The spring semesters are already tough, but when you know you have nothing after that for school-wise, it gets
Yeah.
even tougher.
Yeah.
So motivation is at an all-time
You're
low.
down to 1 week left. All right. We are
7 days, 21 hours, 11 minutes, and 50 seconds.
47 seconds.
Yes, it is. So definitely some interesting stuff going on there. Updating the baseball team, they're sub 7-6, top of the 8th, 2 outs, 2 on. Now after a walk by Bilodeau for North. What? Bilodeau, whatever. I'm sorry, Kramer. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize to him. Apologize to Hudson Bilodeau.
Sorry, Hudson. My bad. I know you're listening right now.
Tim Hudson Bilodeau. No, I'm sorry. That was bad. I
So that's what's
apologize.
going on there. I'll probably keep my eye on NFL news this weekend too, because the weekend before the draft, all the rumors started to kick up a little bit, and kind of was curious what everything's going to go on there. If New England moves
Thursday,
up,
right? It's draft?
Yep, Thursday at 7:00, and
Be
then
at
Friday at
Kauffman
6.
Stadium on Thursday.
Ooh, are you going to the? Who are they playing?
They're playing the White Sox. As a Cardinals fan, it's not going to be fun. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a good time. It's free baseball.
And he bought tickets right behind home plate for $6.
Yeah, right. No, I'm going to the NBA KAB sports seminar that day, and we get tickets to the game for that. So it's going to be a good time. Get to learn a little bit about this profession and go to see some free baseball, which is going to be a terrible game because neither of the teams are any good.
They have a combined 7 wins right now.
But you know what? It's baseball. I think Kramer's going with me too. So.
Hey, have fun, Kramer. You guys should have a good time down there. I know this is sad news, but quarterback Luke McCown announced his retirement today. So,
nobody else? Nobody? I expected a collective awe from
just one awe out
the
of this
Mr.
group.
Backup himself, Luke McCown.
Age 36.
He's played for 437 different NFL teams, even though there are only 32.
13 years with 5 different teams.
He played for the Dayton Triangles back in 1907.
He signed with the Cowboys, but he's only played for the Browns, Buccaneers, Jags, Falcons, and Saints.
The Providence Steamroller
Only.
back in the day.
So, yeah, longtime backup is announcing his retirement from the NFL. Also, Nick Foles restructured his deal with the Eagles for a year, so he'll make including another $2 million in signing bonus.
I do want to say,
so he should make 20 more.
Kind of a Super Bowl.
I do want to kind of bring it down a little bit. I want to say we did learn today that Ben Spaeth, unfortunately, the former Bearcat defensive lineman, lost his brother in a car accident. I believe it was yesterday. So thoughts and prayers go out to the Spaeth family today as well. That unfortunately we had a loss in the Bearcat family. So. Sad to hear that today.
Definitely sad news on that front. Hopefully the family can get some support from Bearcat Nation in going through their tough times going forward. So I don't have really anything else to discuss here with sports news. I mean, we'll see with Steph Curry if he's going to come back anytime soon. What do you think of Steph Curry? Is he going to come back second round maybe? At this point, it's looking questionable.
You know, I think so. He got... What was it? Didn't he get checked over today or something? Or he went through something today. Like
he's going to begin practicing, be reevaluated next week.
Yeah, he got evaluated today, and you got to think if he's beginning to practice now that he's probably going to play by the time the second round starts, or if not, he might try the Joel Embiid route and play in like the third, fourth game of that series, kind of work his way back with some light minutes in the first couple games possibly. But Steph Curry's a competitor. He's going to want to get out there and help his team out, so I expect him to be there in the second round.
How do the Pelicans match up with Golden State with and without Curry?
Yeah, I think either way, the Warriors are winning that series pretty handily. We said the same. We said, the Blazers would probably win, but, I think the Warriors are a whole new animal. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
And either way, even without Steph Curry, they still have 3 first-ballot Hall of Famers on their team. New Orleans has one first-ballot Hall of Famer on their team. So, there's still a big difference right there.
And Nikola.
Yeah, and right. Well, at that point, with Durant versus Davis, Durant is still probably the overall better player, so that's another way to look at it. They still have the best player on the court, so I still expect the Warriors to win that series, but I also expect Steph Curry to be back by that time.
So definitely some interesting things to keep ahead of there with Steph Curry if he's going to be able to come back for the second round of the playoffs. I know about a month ago he said he'd be back for the first round. Kerr knew that was probably not the case there. Thoughts and prayers, we already said, to Ben Spaeth's family, but also to Greg Popovich's family for his wife. Sad news, hearing her pass there on Wednesday. I'm definitely sad for both Popovich and the NBA community because Popovich means so much to the NBA community. And just kind of going off that, do you guys have any problem with the interview after the game with LeBron, knowing everything we've heard since then about him being made aware of before the interview, like, hey, can we ask you about this? And he said, okay, do you have any thoughts on that or anything?
I will say, from somebody who's been on the sideline and had to interview some players in some tough situations, it's difficult to know whether or not to ask that kind of question. But I think what I would point to is, if you're not going to ask it, then when would you? Mm-hmm. Because then you've got the post-game presser right after. And somebody's inevitably going to ask it there. And if they don't, then all of a sudden you're looking at he's already going to be preparing for the next game when you ask him that kind of question. And so, I just think because it had to be asked at some point, because this is LeBron James, this is the biggest star in the game who we know has a history with Greg Popovich and has a good back and forth there, and that we know that there's a relationship there, I think I think it's a question that needs to be asked.
Well, when I was watching,
as unfortunate as it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when I was watching it live, I was thinking like what the heck? Like why would she ask that question to him? Like what's going on here? And then afterwards, when LeBron came out with that video, and I was still like come on, like what happened? But then LeBron came out with that video, and LeBron said like she asked me, and I was 100% okay with it. I wanted to answer the question. I kind of got a loss for words there once the camera started rolling. But either way, I told her that it was okay, and I really like that out of a reporter to see her ask him if it was okay to ask that question, to kind of break the news to him, and not just ask him live on air, because that was the issue I had.
Don't blindside him with it.
Yeah, they just blindsided him with him. But once he said I was totally okay with it, and that I agreed to do it, I was like, okay, then in that situation, it's definitely okay.
That was very professional by Allie LaForce. She did a very good job with. She handled that about as well as anybody could, because that's just a tough question to ask somebody in general, let alone somebody who had a relationship with this person and is coming off of a game. That's just tough.
Yeah.
And LeBron's a great actor, by the way. You would have never known that he was asked beforehand what his answer was.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a.
Well, and I don't know how much of that was acting either. I think he's just that was.
Well, I think
that's
like the initial
moment,
just him trying to collect his thoughts. There was almost looked like it was like he just got asked right away, which is why you were kind of curious how it went through. And I also heard that the TNT producers are also kind of pushing it, like, hey, we want LeBron's comment on this. We can talk about it on our post-game show and stuff like that. And when LeBron's the spokesperson for the league and he has a close relationship with Pop, I have less of a problem with it. Now, if it was a different guy, if it was Paul George, you probably don't ask him that question because he's not a spokesman for the league. LeBron is more, so it almost falls on him a little bit more than it would for most other superstars in the league.
Well, they did the same thing to Kevin Durant, too, shortly before, and it was the same type of situation. He hadn't heard about it yet, and then all of a sudden the reporter asks him the question. He's kind of shocked. He doesn't even know what to say because he's another guy that was on Team USA. He's got a close relationship with Popovich, and he was shocked, too. He had no words for it. So I think the question, like Ryan said, like it has to be asked. Like you got to ask these players who have the close relationships with him that question, and sometimes the timing's unfortunate, but it still has to be asked.
Right.
And Kerr had the question as well because he played under Pop and he's coached under Pop and has a close relationship with him too.
And apparently Kerr's his wife and Popovich's wife were really good friends. When he was on the team, their wives got really close, and Pop said that when he got traded, or Kerr said that when he got traded from the team, Pop came down to him and was like, what are our wives going to do now that they can't see each other every day? So
I think, and with a guy like Greg Popovich, who is just widely revered around the league, and when something like this happens, the entire league takes notice. The entire league is gonna step up and say something, just because it's Greg Popovich. Everybody loves Greg Popovich, and so he's just one of the nice guys around the league. He jokes with the players. He has a good time, and so I think to have a question like that asked, it's just necessary.
And I didn't even know that he had a wife beforehand. I just thought he was such a big basketball guy. Like he's married to the game right now.
Right.
That struck me off guard too. I just felt for the guy so much because that's something that one of the most horrible situations out there. And you really got to feel for a guy like that. And I would just say take your time coming back. You don't have to come back for game 4. Just spend time with your family right now, especially being down 3-0 in the series. Spend time with your family, and
basketball will always be there later.
I know basketball is your career. I know basketball. I know this is what you get paid for, but there are bigger things in life than basketball, and this is one of those things.
Yep, so that's what's kind of going on there in the NBA and across the sports landscape. We'll be back next week to break down the first round of the NFL draft. Unfortunately, the Chiefs don't have a first-round pick, but they have Patrick Mahomes, so that's a good consolation prize, I guess, for it. And we'll preview some of the second and third round. It's going to be later on next Friday.
I don't know if Mahomes appreciates you calling him a consolation prize.
They might not have the first-round pick, but according to this dude, they have 11 wins. So
attaboy Luke. He's very high on Mahomes.
I'm telling you, man. I look at that schedule.
I am too.
And at best case scenario, I see 13 wins. Worst case scenario, I see 6.
Yeah, I mean that's a wide range. But
true though. If you look at the NFL, a lot of these teams are between 6 and 10 and 10 and 6 range, anyways. And it's kind of how things broke. I said 9 and 7 because I said as good as Mahomes can be, I think he might lose a game or two throwing an untimely interception, and it's just be growing pains early on. That's kind of what I thought there going forward. But we're about out of time, guys. So we're gonna take we're going to get off air now. We're going to go.
We're going to take a break, come back for 30 seconds, and then end the show.
We're done for the day. We'll see you next Friday and go wrestling on Sunday. Up next, whatever. Bye. WSK, KC Lex LP, Maryville.